Tonight was the first SummerSlam without Vince McMahon. Although it was largely a Vince McMahon card. I mean, before he went away, he put most of this show together. But it was the first SummerSlam officially, the first pay-per-view of the Triple H era since he took over as the new head of creative in WWE. And already we are beginning to see major changes. In fact, we saw it in the opening match on this show tonight, where, honestly, you know, when we talk about Triple H coming in and how long it's going to take to really start to see changes to the creative end of this company, changes to the types of talents who are pushed, changes in every facet of this company, it's going to be a long-term process, right? It's not going to happen overnight. I don't know too many people who expected there to be too many changes that were going to be noticed on the show tonight. Maybe you would see a big surprise or a return or something. And what we ended up with in the very first match on this show tonight, in one fell swoop, under this new administration, they have completely revitalized the Raw Women's Division. That was in the opening segment of this show. Completely took a division that was dead and have breathed new life into it. So that was a hot way to open the show tonight. And actually, I thought the first couple of matches on the show were very good. I thought that was a great way to open SummerSlam tonight. And then we settled into a pattern where things kind of fell off a cliff. Not that there was anything overly bad, but it was just, it couldn't maintain that same level of energy in the opening couple of segments. And it started to fall, and it was like, oh, here we go again. You know, we're kind of falling back into that pattern. But then we had that main event. At the end of the show here tonight, we had the main event, last man standing for the championship, Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, a match that they billed as the last time ever. We will never again see Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar in the ring again. And I always laugh. Every time they said that in the build-up to this match, I would have to bite my lip and make sure that I could stop myself from laughing, because the idea that they could help themselves and actually live up to that stipulation and make this the final ever meeting between these two, it's almost unfathomable to me, unless Brock leaves, which is possible. We may have witnessed Brock Lesnar's last match tonight. We don't know what his future holds. But I will say this. If tonight does end up being the final match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, if WWE actually lives up to what they promised tonight, what a fucking match to go out on, right? What a fucking main event. If that's their last ever meeting, what a wild ass main event to go out on. We had pretty much everything that you could imagine as far as weapons, as far as interference. It was overbooked. Oh, absolutely. It was a fucking overbooked mess at times. But that main event was a lot of fun. And I would go so far as to say that that was the best Brock Lesnar-Roman Reigns match since the very first match they ever had at WrestleMania 31. They've had many matches over the years. They've had matches in Saudi Arabia. They've had other WrestleMania matches. They had a WrestleMania match in New Orleans. They had a WrestleMania match just this year. Both of them, very disappointing. Both of them, not good. Tonight they went in there They added that stipulation. They had more tools to use. They had more toys to play with. They came up with this amazing gimmick. We've seen the ring collapse before, but we've never seen the ring uprooted 10 feet off the ground and left in that position. And we'll show that a little bit later on here in the stream, but it was a wild match. I thought when this show was over, honestly, it was probably the best SummerSlam in many years. Even with the middle part of the show where it kind of died there for a little bit, when this show was over, I had a lot of fun watching SummerSlam tonight. And you'll have to also keep in mind, you know, for the changes that we saw from Triple H with the women who debuted, the women who returned on this show tonight in that opening segment, what we saw there. We'll lead off with that here in a second. We saw that. That was evidence of change that is now coming to the Raw Women's division. The rest of this card was not put together by Triple H. This was a Vince McMahon book show. So they were pretty much locked in to the matches. They were locked into the storyline direction that they had. I didn't expect Triple H to come in and blow everything up. And so now that SummerSlam is out of the way, honestly, if you want to judge what Triple H is going to do, what kind of leader is Triple H going to be creatively in this company, what can we expect from the Paul Levesque era of WWE? Honestly, the real time to judge was after we got beyond the pay-per-view. Well, now the pay-per-view is over, and the real test begins starting this Monday on Raw, because now they're going to start building to Clash at the Castle. That's going to be their next big show in Cardiff coming up in September. We already know what the main event is going to be. We already have a sense of what some of the other matches might be, but we know the main event. From this point forward now, Triple H can put forth the vision that he sees. He can put forth the vision, pushing the people that he wants to push, calling up new people that he might want to call up to the main roster. Maybe focusing a little less on people who Vince McMahon liked and who Vince McMahon was focusing on. That's what's going to make this period coming up, these next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, very interesting and a lot of fun to watch, because we don't know what to expect, right? We think we know what Triple H may or may not do. We don't. Nobody knows for sure. We got a little taste of it tonight, but we don't know for sure. I am optimistic, and now that SummerSlam is out of the way, we can find out what the future of WWE is truly going to look like over these next 6 to 12 months. The big question that I have, we saw what SummerSlam looked like tonight. Every SummerSlam up to now has been a Vince McMahon production from the very first one in 1988. It's a Vince McMahon production pushing the people that Vince McMahon wants to push. And now here we are, and for the first time, I sit here and I look ahead and I wonder, what is SummerSlam 2023 going to look like? We saw 2022, the last vestiges of the McMahon era. What is SummerSlam 2023 going to look like? What is WrestleMania next year going to look like? And I'm excited to find out. I thought this was a very good pay-per-view tonight. We're going to go through all of it because there's a lot to get into. There's a lot to unpack here from this show tonight. Noah, thank you for the sub. Right on cue. I have one very important thing to ask all of you. I need all of you to smash that like button on this video. We want to get this video in that recommended column so as many people as possible will click onto this review. And the only way to do that is to hit that like button. So do that. If you are new here, hit the sub button. That way, whenever a new video goes up or I go live, you will be notified. Hit that bell. Make sure notifications are on. If you would like to drop a super chat, you will see them popping up on your screen. I'm going to read all of your messages. We'll do that a little bit later on here in the stream. So if you would like to support, if you have comments about tonight's show, if you have questions coming out of tonight's pay-per-view, now's a good time to get them on in. And we'll hang out a little bit later and we'll go through all of your super chats. This is your SummerSlam 2022 review. I am the Solomonster. Thank you for choosing me for your SummerSlam coverage. SummerSlam opened up with the Raw Women's Championship on the line. They opened up with Bianca Belair defending against Becky Lynch. This was a rematch, not only from this year's WrestleMania, but a rematch from last year's SummerSlam, 1 year ago. 1 year ago next month. Becky Lynch had been gone for a very long time. It was supposed to be Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks was not on the show for reasons that were never explained. Becky Lynch made her return, and she beat Bianca in 26 seconds. And I'm happy to announce that this match tonight Well, it went a lot longer than 26 seconds. There was no stage, very similar for those who were wondering if you didn't see the pay-per-view. What did Nissan Stadium look like for SummerSlam? No stage, just like last year, so very similar, where they had the aisleway. They had some screens, but that was pretty much it. And we had full daylight. Full daylight, really only for the first couple of matches. Then it got dark. But I liked it. Very, very minimalist, very simple setup, and I like it. And they got very lucky, too, because a few days ago, they were predicting possible thunderstorms. Beautiful weather tonight. Outdoor stadium, no rain, no wind. Perfect night in Nashville for tonight's show. Becky Lynch comes out, and she is out there, and I couldn't put my finger on it at first. When she came out and I saw her in that red and yellow outfit, I'm like, who does she remind me of? Who does Becky Lynch look like coming out in that gear tonight? She looks like Curryman. So we had Curryman coming out here for the opening contest. But these two, when they had their match at WrestleMania back in April, they had one of the best matches at this year's WrestleMania on either night, right? It was all about Stone Cold coming back and having the match with Kevin Owens. And that was the big attraction to WrestleMania this year. And they had a great match. But in terms of, bell-to-bell, in-ring wrestling, again, Austin was the attraction. Logan Paul impressed a lot of people. Pat McAfee impressed a lot of people. But I think you could argue the best match of WrestleMania this year was Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. So we know what these two women can do together if you give them 10, 15, 20 minutes in the ring together. So this was one of the matches I was looking forward to seeing if they could top what they did at WrestleMania. I wish that we had a different match. I was kind of hoping it would be a Rhea Ripley, and she got hurt. Didn't happen, so they fell back on this match, which is how we ended up here. There was a spot early on where Becky got dropped, and she landed right on her shoulder, and she kept favoring it for the rest of the match, but it felt a little weird. Like maybe it wasn't just a sell job. She would kind of favor it in spots where she was in control, and maybe you wouldn't expect her to be favoring it. So I wasn't sure if maybe she actually dislocated it. Maybe she did injure it in some way. I don't believe that she did, but I haven't seen any update for sure on her. Becky rolled out to the floor. Bianca followed her, picked her up for the KOD, and she went for the KOD. Becky flipped over, landed on her feet inside the timekeeper's area, and she grabbed the hold of Bianca's braid and yanked her forward right into the barricade, climbed up on the barricade and did a draping leg drop. A little bit later on in the match, Becky went for a crossbody block from the middle rope, and Bianca rolled through, tried to power her up. Lynch escaped and flipped over Bianca, I should say, and ended up hitting a stunner for a near fall. Kind of a flipping stunner by Becky Lynch. I don't think I've seen her do that before. Bianca came back. She put Becky down with the KOD on the floor outside the ring. Tried to drag her back inside, but she was dead weight. She couldn't get her back in. So Bianca quickly scurries back into the ring, leaves Curryman out here on the floor. But Becky was able to recover in time by the 9 count, and she climbed back into the ring, barely beat the 10 count. So Bianca went to the top rope, and she was cut off. Lynch stood on the middle rope, set up for a superplex. Bianca fought her off. Becky pulled her into the ring by her braid and then hit a manhandle slam for a great near fall. Becky later on caught Bianca on the ropes, and on the ropes, from the middle rope, tried for a manhandle slam. Bianca, though, countered that into a Spanish fly, which was a great spot. That was a great setup spot for the finish, which was her picking up Becky for the KOD. She planted her face down, and she beat her with her finish to retain the Raw Women's title. They were clearly trying a lot of different things in this match. You could tell. I mean, they were moving a million miles a minute. This was not a match where they were intent to slow things down. They were trying to just throw as much shit in there and try to come up with all of these kind of innovative, unique spots that we haven't seen from them before. And it did cause a little bit of sloppiness at moments because they were moving so fast. And again, Becky was favoring the shoulder. Whether she was selling or not, it did seem to affect some of the things that she was trying to do. But they were clearly out there trying to steal the show. I didn't think that this was as good as their match at WrestleMania, but I enjoyed it. I still thought it was a very good match. I thought it was an excellent match. I just think the WrestleMania match was better. But that's two excellent matches now that these two have to their name on two major pay-per-views this year so far. Now, the real story here wasn't even the match. It wasn't even anything that happened in the match itself. The real story is what came after the match was over. After the match, Becky obviously is very upset that she did not win the championship. And she walks over to Bianca and she offers her hand. She's trying to be a good sport. She puts her hand out for a handshake. Bianca was apprehensive, as she should be. She ends up accepting the gesture, and they embrace. They hug in the middle of the ring. And Becky leaves the ring, and she goes and she takes a seat over by where the timekeeper and the trainer are. She goes and sits down over there. As Bianca is celebrating, all of a sudden we hear Bayley's theme music. And out, it's her heel music, not her old babyface music. For those wondering, are they going to bring her back as a heel? Or are they going to bring her back as a babyface? She came out to her heel theme music. And here comes Bayley. Now, we have not seen Bayley in over a year. Actually, it was exactly, I think, 1 year ago this month, earlier in the month of July. So, 12 months ago is the last time that we saw Bayley. She happened to be in the middle of a feud at the time with Bianca Belair. They were feuding over, it would have been the Smackdown Women's Championship, right? So the only thing that's changed, I think, is the color of the belt. We went from a blue belt to a red belt. But it was Bianca and Bayley who were feuding at the time. They had two matches. They were heading into their third match, I think at Money in the Bank. This was during a period where Vince McMahon, he was on one of his kicks, and he was having talent go to the Performance Center to do drills and to do rolls, and it was all this weird shit that was going on at the time. I believe that's why Bayley was there. I think she was one of those people who was there for that purpose. That's how she got hurt. She didn't even get hurt in a match. She got hurt, I think, doing rolls in the ring at the Performance Center, and she tore her ACL. She blew out her knee. So she has been out for an entire year. She comes back, and right back to confront Bianca Belair, the woman that she was feuding with at the time that we last saw her on TV. So that makes sense. She comes out, she gets a nice reaction from the crowd. Now, the aisleway that they had for the pay-per-view tonight, very similar to SummerSlam last year at Allegiant Stadium, where you kind of go straight and then the aisle curves, right? Also kind of similar to WrestleMania 19, only that one was much wider. This was a much narrower entranceway, but she gets to the curve in the aisle. So now she can actually see the ring directly, and she stops. She doesn't go into the ring. She pauses in the middle of the aisleway. And she's looking at Bianca, and she's asking her if she remembers her. And as she's saying this, all of a sudden we hear someone else's theme music. And I will say that at first, I didn't recognize who it was. I didn't recognize who it was. I don't know if it was just the audio or whatever. I'm like, who is this? I'm trying to look at the Titantron and see. And then I see on the Titantron, on the screen, it says Dakota. And then it hit me. And out comes Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai was not even employed anymore by WWE. She spent years in NXT, but she was released earlier this year. Many months ago, they let her go. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the rumors and the reports on her is that she may have requested her release, is that she wanted to leave, because she could see the writing on the wall. She saw that she had no future in this company. So it only made sense. So they cut her, and so I was not expecting to see Dakota Kai show up on my TV tonight, but I was very happy when I realized that it was her. She came out, and you could tell there was obviously a portion of the audience who didn't know who she was, because she has been gone for a while. And these are also probably people who don't watch NXT. But there were people in the crowd who definitely recognized her and reacted to her when she came out. Corey Graves mentioned that he didn't even think that she was under WWE contract. What is she doing out here? So she joined Bayley in the aisle and is standing next to her. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, first mark of the Triple H era, right? He brings back Dakota Kai. What's going to happen now? They're going to come down to the ring. They're going to attack Bianca. Maybe Becky is going to back her up, right? 2-on-2. But they weren't done yet. Because then they played the theme music for Io Shirai. Io Shirai has been out with an injury now for a while. We haven't seen her on NXT television in a while. And the belief on her is that she was just kind of running out the clock and she was going to go back to Japan. That was the rumor. That was the belief. She wanted to go to the main roster. If they had no plans to promote her to the main roster, she was going to go back to Japan. Here comes Io Shirai, down to the ring, making her debut in front of this big crowd here at SummerSlam. Another face that I did not expect to see on this show tonight, but a mainstay of Triple H's NXT. He signed her. He brought her into the black and gold. He put the championship on her. You know why? Because she is one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. And I feel like she has been stuck in NXT now for so long. It's been 3 years now, 4 years that she's been in NXT. And she was focused on for a while. But it's been a very long time since Io Shirai has done anything of note in NXT. And the fact that she spent as long as she did down there without even getting a look for Raw or SmackDown is disgusting. Because she is one of the best in the world. She is one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there who forgot about that. Well, now she's going to show people why she is considered one of the best in the world. There is one change, though. There is one change, which I'll get to in a second. And I actually don't mind it too much, and I can't say that it's unexpected, but we'll get to what that change is. So Io Shirai comes out, and she stands beside Bayley and Dakota Kai. And I hear Corey Graves on commentary refer to her as Io Sky. And I thought maybe at first I had misheard. But then he did it again, and then he did it again. He didn't call her Io Shirai. He called her Io Sky. That's because she now has a new name. Io Shirai is no longer Io Shirai. Io Shirai now is Io Sky, spelled I-Y-O Sky. So, falling victim to the name change syndrome that so many other people before her have fallen victim to. The one thing about this, and the reason I don't really mind it so much, her nickname is, right, they call her the Empress, the Empress of the Sky. What is the exact nickname that they gave her? It's part of her nickname. The Genius of the Sky. I'm mixing her up with Asuka, calling her the Empress. The nickname fits. So if her name now is Sky, it kind of ties into the nickname. So you know what? I don't mind that so much. But here we go again with the continued name changes. So all the people who thought that, Triple H being in power now is going to mean people aren't going to get their names changed. It's like I said last week. That's one policy of theirs that's not going to change. They're still going to want to own everything about you. They're going to want to own your name. They're going to want to own your soul. So they're not going to go back on that. But believe me, it could have been a lot worse. Of the names they could have gone with, it could have been a lot worse. So now we have all three of them standing shoulder to shoulder in the aisleway. And now I'm waiting to see if anybody else is going to come out here. How many more women are we going to get out here? It was just those three. They start walking down to the ring. And once they get in, Bayley's in the ring with Dakota on one side, Io on the other. And Bianca is in the ring, and Bianca is all by herself. Well, here comes Becky Lynch, who is still sitting at ringside. Here comes Becky Lynch into the ring. She's standing shoulder to shoulder with Bianca. And I did for a moment there think that Becky was going to attack Bianca. And we were going to end up with Becky, Bayley, Io, and Dakota. But it didn't happen. Now, that doesn't mean that it still can happen. It could happen on TV on Monday night. We don't know. But she stood shoulder to shoulder with Bianca and said, bring it. And Bayley said, now, you know what? We're gonna leave. We're gonna fight another day. And the three of them left the ring. And so the black and gold has invaded the main roster. And this was only the first match. This was the opening segment of the show. You know, when Dakota walked out and then Io walked out, I'm sitting here thinking, wait a minute, am I watching SummerSlam or am I watching TakeOver from 2018? I had to do a double take here and look at the hashtag in the corner of the screen just to verify exactly what I was watching. Not that I mind. I was a big fan of that era of NXT. So there's a lot to unpack here. It is, let me just say this, long overdue to see Dakota Kai and especially Io Shirai called up to the main roster. These are two women who in the months, in the case of Dakota, in the months before she left the company, and in the case of Io, it goes back many, many months, two women who had dark matches. Two women who had dark matches that were basically auditions for Vince McMahon on the main roster to see if either of them would be called up. Remember the stories about Dakota's going to have a dark match before SmackDown? They brought her and Aaliyah to TV to put them in the ring together. And what a great person for Aaliyah to be in the ring with. Well, they called up Aaliyah and they left Dakota Kai behind. So that tells you what Vince McMahon thought of Dakota Kai. We know what he thought of Dakota Kai. We know what he thought of Io Shirai. I believe she had dark matches as well. Apparently wasn't good enough for him. She never got the call up. Well, now Vince McMahon is gone. This ain't his play toy no more. Triple H is in charge. These are people that Triple H signed and brought into the company. This is one of the things, one of the benefits. It's why I said on the podcast, if you are working in NXT right now, if you are down in the Performance Center in Orlando, you should be popping bottles right now over this change in leadership in this company, because this right here is nothing but a plus for the NXT brand. If you are, whether it's a Braun Breaker or a Carmelo Hayes or a Wes Lee or the Creed brothers or Solo Sikoa or whoever, right? Pick any of the women. If you are any of those people, your chances of success on the main roster just went up exponentially. Not everybody is going to end up being a star, but now a lot of these people who otherwise would have their legs chopped right out from underneath them before they even had a chance to prove what they can do, now they may have a real chance to actually A, get called up, and B, show what they can do. And I am as happy as a pig in shit that Io and Dakota are going to at least have that chance now to find success on the main roster. They spent so many years in NXT to go nowhere, to waste 3, 4, 5 years of their career. And for what? And in one match, in one segment on this pay-per-view, the entire Raw women's division has now been transformed. It was a dead division. It was down to Bianca and Becky. Rhea was out with an injury. Now she's back at least. Alexa Bliss is back. We'll see what they do with her. But for the longest time, the Raw women's division has been a disaster. The SmackDown women's division, frankly, is not that much better. They'll probably get Charlotte Flair back any week now. But this is exactly what the women's division needed. They needed new, experienced faces being called up to television, being called up to Raw, being called up to SmackDown, because SmackDown could use some new blood there too. They called Raquel Rodriguez up recently, so that'll help. Raw needed this. This is something that division desperately needed. And I'm intrigued by the idea of Bayley now having her own group and taking these women under her wing and having Bayley and Dakota and Io working together. And all of a sudden, Becky Lynch now going to be allies potentially with Bianca Belair. This whole division has been shaken up in one night. I have more interest now in seeing where they go with this division than I have in years. That's the Triple H effect. This is just the opening night. Imagine what else we may see in the weeks to come. So, as far as Becky Lynch is concerned, looks like she's a babyface now. Everything's falling into place. What have I been talking about? WrestleMania next year. You know where this is going. You know where this should be headed. The match that we never got, one-on-one. I know it might be 4 years too late or 5 years too late, but Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, the roles reversed. Becky will be the babyface. Ronda should be the heel. Well, now we have seemingly babyface Becky Lynch. And you'll notice, by the way, when she stood next to Bianca in the ring, everybody was so quick to cheer for Becky Lynch. You know why? It's because they didn't want to boo her in the first place. They never wanted her to go heel. So the fans are going to be more than willing to accept Becky Lynch back as a babyface. Later in the show, when we get to the SmackDown Women's title match, now we're seeing where they're going with Ronda Rousey. The pieces for WrestleMania next year are falling into place. So this was excellent stuff, and this was a great way to open the show tonight. Up next, we had Logan Paul making his singles debut against The Miz, who was out with Maurice, and Tommaso Ciampa, who was in full gear, even though he was not wrestling tonight, but he was in full gear, because you never know when a match might break out. See, Ciampa's a veteran. He's always prepared for this sort of thing. So Ciampa was out there in Miz's corner. At least he had a role on the show. Miz came to the ring. He had a Polaroid picture on a necklace around his neck. Very similar to what Logan Paul did at WrestleMania this year when he came out with that stupid Pokemon card. What was it, Pikachu or whatever it was? Some $5 million Pokemon card that was around his neck. So Miz came out. He had a card that had a picture of him giving a skull-crushing finale to Logan Paul. And he's looking into the camera and he's saying it's one of a kind. It's a one-of-a-kind original. Logan Paul comes out. He's dressed in all yellow, ready for combat. Now, we saw Logan Paul at WrestleMania wrestle for the first time this year. And in that match, it was him and Miz against the Mysterios. And Logan Paul looked great. He didn't embarrass himself. He didn't look out of place. He had a great showing at WrestleMania this year. Really, all the celebrities at WrestleMania, even the Jackass crew, like they served their purpose. It was a good night. It was a good weekend at WrestleMania this year to be a celebrity, because we've seen some fucking god-awful celebrity matches in the past. In this company, I mean, I once upon a time watched Jay Leno wrestle in the main event of a WCW pay-per-view, and I had to watch Hulk Hogan sell for Jay Leno, okay? So it can be bad. Believe me, we've seen some horrible appearances before. WWE is batting 1,000 so far this year when it comes to their celebrities, because they love bringing in the celebrities. Question is, what is Logan Paul going to look like in a singles environment? Tag team match is one thing, but what's he going to look like when he's on his own? Well, we found out here tonight. Miz threw some chops at him in the corner at the beginning, and Logan came right back and spun him around and returned the favor. And Miz caught him on the middle rope. He was going for something, and he crotched Logan on the middle rope, so his legs got spread, and then Miz grabbed him and gave him a code breaker. So this whole sequence looked very good. It came off well. Logan came back a little while later, and he hit a blockbuster off the middle rope, put Miz down, applied a figure 4 leg lock. Corey Graves said that it was a move that Miz had taught to him previously. Miz got to the ropes to break the hold. Did I mention Maurice was at ringside here? I feel like I overlook Maurice sometimes. Always good to see Maurice here. So Miz got to the ropes. He broke the hold. Logan hit a crossbody block from the top rope. Followed that up with a standing moonsault for a near fall. Ciampa got up on the apron. And he's trying to get his attention. He's trying to distract this guy. And he's winding back like he's going to throw a punch at Logan Paul. But the referee sees this. He catches him in the act. And so he ejects Ciampa from ringside. And Ciampa he's pitching a fit. He's not happy about this at all. And he says, you know what? I'm not going to leave. I'm not going anywhere. And he climbs off the apron and he takes a seat at ringside. All of a sudden, we hear the theme music of AJ Styles. There were a lot of people who were not on this pay-per-view tonight. And I don't mind it so much, because this was actually a pretty lean card on paper in terms of the number of matches, even though the fucking thing ended up going off the air at 11:30. It was a lean card, and yet they still went off the air at 11:30. So imagine if they would have had an additional 1-2 matches on the show. I don't think it would have gone any later, but there would have been a lot of time cut from some of the existing matches. So I feel like this was kind of the perfect number of matches here on the show, but no Kevin Owens, no AJ Styles, Walter, right? He's got a feud going with Shinsuke Nakamura for the Intercontinental title. I thought maybe they'd put that on the show, and they didn't. Even McIntyre and Sheamus, they had their match on SmackDown last night. They did it on TV instead of saving it for the pay-per-view. So there were a lot of people missing on the show. AJ was one of them. They play his music. Everybody's waiting for him to come down the aisleway, which was a very long aisleway, by the way. Everybody who made an entrance on this show, it took like 5 minutes for them to get down to the... I was kind of thinking, maybe they should have had those old WrestleMania carts. You just climb into the cart, and then they can kind of turbo boost you down to the ring, but they didn't do it. This would have been a great opportunity tonight. Can you imagine Brock Lesnar? I mean, I guess they couldn't do it with him because he rode a fucking tractor to the ring, but imagine Brock Lesnar just coming out and standing on one of those carts and just standing there while it transports him down to the ring, and that little curve in the aisle, it kind of curves, and here comes Brock, and it's not moving fast enough, so he just says, fuck it, and he rips the ropes open and jumps out. I do miss those carts sometimes. I'm trying to think, when was the last time they used those carts? Was it WrestleMania 6? I think it might have been. It might have been WrestleMania 6 at the Sky Dome. That was the last time I think I saw those things. AJ showed up behind Ciampa, and he dove at him off the barricade. Styles threw Ciampa over the barricade and brawled with him, I assume, to the back, because these two were never seen again after this. It's pretty shitty, though, that that's the best they could do for AJ Styles at SummerSlam this year. So meanwhile, in the ring, Logan Paul executed his own phenomenal forearm on The Miz, but only got a near fall. Paul and Miz ended up at ringside, where Logan placed Miz on top of the announce desk, and he left him there, and he climbed up to the top rope. You know, you're absolutely right. I completely forgot about the Royal Rumble in 2017. They did, didn't they? For the Rumble match. That's right. That was at the Alamo Dome. That was only, was it 5 years ago? Well, before that, before 2017, I think it would have been WrestleMania back in 1990. But anyway, thank you for the correction. So Miz is sprawled out on the announce desk, and Logan Paul climbs up to the top rope. Maurice is down below, and she's trying to distract him and get in the way and prevent him from jumping. And Logan pulls off one of his elbow pads, and he throws it at her, and he executes a picture-perfect frog splash from the top of the ring post down through Miz on the table. The table breaks. They both go through the table. Miz looked like that. I mean, that looked like it sucked to take that move. I'm sure it knocked the wind right out of him. But this looked fantastic. He could not have timed it and positioned it any better. They showed a slow-mo replay of it. He got the full, the frog splash. You got to get the legs in. Like, it looked great. It looked great. You could tell that this guy's been practicing his dives and his frog splash. I'm sure he's been using the crash pad now for weeks. Well, it paid off here because he covered a lot of distance on that dive. I don't know how many feet, but he comes up a little bit short, or if he overextends himself a little too much, and it could be disastrous. So he nailed it perfectly. So at that point, Logan Paul brings Miz back into the ring, covers him, but Maurice now is distracting the referee. You could count to 10. Maurice is still distracting the referee. So Logan gets up in her face. Miz then tries to hit him from behind. Logan moves out of the way. Miz, though, stops short of striking his wife. Logan, though, sneaks up behind him, grabs him, and gives The Miz the skull-crushing finale and pins him to win the match. So what I got out of this when this thing was over is that Logan Paul is the new Shane McMahon. He goes in there, he does all these big spots and looks good doing it. The difference, though, is that Logan Paul looks like a real athlete. Logan Paul is in a lot better physical shape than Shane McMahon, even when Shane was younger. He's in much better shape. He looks like way more of a wrestler than Shane McMahon ever did. And look, he knows how to hit the big moves. Everything that he did in this match, in the ring, everything he did outside the ring, the frog splash, all of it, it didn't look, he didn't look tentative with anything that he did. There were no noticeable, botches or anything like that. He didn't almost kill himself on certain things. At one point he did a standing moonsault. I mentioned the moonsault off the apron. So he was busting out moves left and right, but even the fundamental type stuff. Early in the match when it was a little more slow and Miz would knock him down, he was frustrating him. The camera would zoom in on his face, like the facial expressions, showing frustration on his face and just little things like that that maybe some people don't really pay attention to. He knows how to do it. He seems like he's born to do this sort of thing. I feel the same way about Pat McAfee. McAfee did not look nearly as good as Logan Paul did tonight. And that's not to say that McAfee looked terrible, but Logan Paul, he blew him out of the water as far as their performances here on this show. So I thought Logan Paul did a great job. Again, WrestleMania was a tag team match. Singles match is a completely different beast. You're on your own in there, sink or swim. His first singles match was at SummerSlam in front of 40,000 people. So you have that added pressure on top of it. And I thought that he knocked it out of the park. And look, certainly for one night, he proved me wrong. He proved that babyface Logan Paul, under the right circumstances, in front of the right crowd, feuding with the right person, could work. The reason it worked, though, and I'll give credit to The Miz, because Miz is very good at being the hateable heel, but even more than that is his in-ring performance. If he went in there and he stunk out the joint, or he was botching shit left and right, or he got gassed in the first 5 minutes, people would have read him the riot act. He went in there and he hit all of his spots and he impressed a lot of people. So the reason he got over, I think, more than anything else in front of this crowd is because he put the effort in and it paid off. And he put in a hell of a performance and people appreciate that. You put the work in, you have a great match, they chant, "This is awesome," and they chant, "You deserve it," right? And all this stuff. The fans appreciate that. That's what got him over in this match. He got himself over through his work in this match. And this ended up being an excellent match, I thought. So as far as celebrities go, I was kind of thinking about this before. We've seen, just in the last couple of years, we've seen Logan Paul. We've seen Pat McAfee. We've seen Johnny Knoxville. We've seen Bad Bunny. Many years ago at SummerSlam, we saw Stephen Amell, right, when he was feuding with Stardust. We've seen a lot of celebrities come in, and many of them have done well. I cannot think of another celebrity who has come in from outside wrestling, no prior experience doing any of this, who has come in and performed, like in the ring, performed as well and taken to this as quickly as Logan Paul. I can't think of anybody else who's done it. People talk about Kurt Angle when he first debuted in WWE and how quickly, right? He took to it like a duck to water. He just came in and, man, this guy just got it, right? From the moment he debuted in his rookie year. From a celebrity point of view, I think you could kind of say the same thing about Logan Paul. This guy just gets it. And he looks the part. He looks like a wrestler. We had a Maximum Male Models segment here on this show. They had to get them on the show. So we had Maxine Dupree introducing her men, Massey and Mansois. And they were parched and they needed some water. And so she called for some water. And they brought in these parody bottles of Pure Life water. See, I don't have any Pure Life water. I just have this, I have this Poland Spring crap. So apparently I'm drinking, basically it's like toilet water, I guess, compared to what they had here. So Pure Life water is the official sponsored water of choice for Maximum Male Models. And what this segment was, they played some music, they poured water on themselves, and they posed. Unfortunately, Maxine didn't pour water on herself, but the other two did. So they poured water on themselves and they were playing with a beach ball and they looked like they were having a grand old time. And then at the end here, Max Dupree showed up and he said that Pure Life water was the official water of their agency. And I thought, well, that was something. That was something. I don't know what else I'm supposed to say about this. I will say, I thought it was mildly amusing. But this is still not the gimmick that Max Dupree should be in. But hey, at least they didn't get rid of him, right? Vince apparently didn't like him. Triple H said, "Nah, we're going to get you back on TV." Because again, he's a Triple H guy. He's a guy that Triple H signed. Triple H knows what he can do. So he's sticking with the gimmick for now, but I guess it's better than being on the unemployment line. So up next, we had Bobby Lashley against Mr. Money in the Bank, Austin Theory, for the United States Championship. Let me take a moment here just to welcome everybody in. This is your SummerSlam review, 2022 SummerSlam, always one of the bigger reviews of the year, one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year. And this year was no exception. They had to move Money in the Bank out of a stadium and move it into a much smaller building. But they did get their stadium show in tonight. Again, I thought it looked great. I thought the way the stadium was set up looked great. So by now, Lashley is coming out for his match. And Nightfall is here. Night has fallen here on Nissan Stadium. Once Lashley made it into the ring, Theory hit him with the Money in the Bank briefcase over and over and over again. He tells the referee, ring the bell. Let's go. Ring the bell. Referee checks on Lashley. Lashley says, go ahead, ring the bell. So he recovered. He ended up slamming Theory with a spine buster. Theory rolled out to the floor. He said, fuck this. He grabbed his briefcase. He's going to head to the back, right? He doesn't want any more of this. He doesn't need this. He's going to cash in later on. What do I need this shit for? So he goes to leave. Lashley, though, is blocking his path. So he throws the briefcase at Lashley, who swats it away. Lashley runs Theory into the barricade, tosses him back inside. And he went to the corner, and he was waiting for Theory to stand up. He went for a spear. Theory leapfrogged, and Lashley posted himself shoulder first in the corner. Finish came when Lashley caught Theory in an overhead gorilla press. He dropped Theory back to his feet, put him in the hurt lock, and Theory immediately tapped out. Same finish we saw on TV last Monday. Immediately taps out because he does not want to get injured. So let's tap out quickly and let's save ourselves and get the hell out of here. And Bobby Lashley, as he should have, retains the United States Championship. And that left us with the only question now, what happens later in the show? Does Theory cash in? Does he cash in successfully? Does he cash in and become a loser? We all knew he was going to show up in the main event. The only question is, how is it going to play out? So there was no need for him to win the U.S. title. Lashley has that championship. So long as we don't have a champion on Raw, Bobby Lashley is the de facto top champion on Monday Night Raw because Roman Reigns never shows up on the fucking show. He might show up there this Monday because it's right after a pay-per-view. How often have we seen Roman Reigns on Raw since WrestleMania? Literally, I think twice. Maybe 3 times, and I'm almost positive we've seen him twice on Monday Night Raw since the beginning of April. So they need some kind of a champion on that show. Bobby Lashley is the best choice right now to hold that U.S. title. And maybe under Triple H, we will see some added emphasis on those secondary championships, which is something that they've been very inconsistent with now for many years, right? I mean, how many times have we seen the U.S. title or the Intercontinental title relegated to the background? The last time we saw the Intercontinental title even defended on a pay-per-view, I believe, was WrestleMania last year. That has to change. Hopefully now we'll begin to see some of those changes. We had Rey and Dominic Mysterio taking on the Judgment Day. Finn Balor and Damian Priest with Rhea Ripley in their corner. No disqualification. The moment they added the no disqualification stipulation, I knew exactly where this was headed, and it played out exactly the way that I expected it to play out. This was very goofy, and I'll tell you why this was very goofy. This was very goofy because only the legal men from each team were allowed in the ring at the same time. And that's not even really the goofy part. The goofy part is that this was a no disqualification match. So I would like for you to explain to me, what exactly, when Finn Balor is in the ring with Dominic Mysterio, what exactly is stopping Damian Priest from getting into the ring and beating the shit out of Dominic? What is stopping Rey Mysterio from coming in and helping his son? I mean, maybe they're not the legal men, so they can't get the winning fall, but there's literally nothing stopping all 4 men from just getting in and making it a tornado tag team match because it's no disqualification. They're going by the fucking honor system here. What is this, Ring of Honor? They have like a code of honor before they have to fucking shake hands before the match? So this was very dumb. Once they explain the rules here, and the other guys are just standing on the apron, I'm like, this is very stupid. So Corey Graves wins for the dumbest line of the night. And I will say this, and I should have said this at the beginning, I'll say it now. One of the other positive things about this pay-per-view tonight was the commentary. And it was especially noticeable with Michael Cole. Michael Cole feels like he has a new lease on life. If you listen to him, even on SmackDown last night, but especially on the pay-per-view tonight, this man he feels like the weight of the world has been lifted off his shoulder. And he made a comment here in a little bit. I'll mention that when I get there. But he just feels like the weight of the world has been lifted off of his shoulders, and he's able to be more animated now, and he's able to be a little more free with the things that he says here on this show. especially in the main event. At the end of the show with what happened to Brock Lesnar when the bloodline was ganging up on him and everything, and him and Corey Graves, but especially Cole, like losing his mind, begging for someone to please come out and help. I mean, there were different points on the show tonight where I thought Cole, this was as good as Michael Cole has sounded in years. So I thought the announcing was largely very good, and I thought the announcing was on point. That's the good news. The bad news is we had the same nauseating fucking camera cuts that we always have, because the same idiot is still sitting in the truck producing this show. And until he's gone, nothing is going to change. There were multiple times, including here in this match, where you cut from one angle to another. You had about 10 cuts in the span of 10 seconds. Think about that. That's one cut per second. It's ridiculous. So that's my only knock on that. But what I was going to say is that Corey Graves wins for the dumbest line of the night by claiming that the Judgment Day may be what helps Finn Balor realize his full potential. That is what Corey Graves said. The Judgment Day might just be what helps Finn Balor realize his full potential. He said this about a 40-year-old ex-Universal Champion. Maybe now, after all of these years, he might finally realize his full potential because of the Judgment Day. The group that from the moment he joined has done pretty much nothing but lose. They won a hell of a lot more when Edge was leading the group. Ever since they kicked Edge out, it's very hard to win a match if you are a member of the Judgment Day. So I thought that was a very stupid line. The heels worked over Dominic for a while until he got the hot tag to Ray, and Balor tried to bring a chair into the ring because, again, no DQ. Ray kicked him, took the chair, and slammed it across Damian Priest's back. Ray then did a slide on the chair from the ring, through the ropes, I think it was under the bottom rope, onto Balor on the floor. Priest came back with a super kick. He covered Ray for a near fall. Ray came back and he executed a Super Rana. Got a nice Super Rana here by Rey Mysterio. Off the top rope, Priest broke up the pin. Mysterios ended up getting the heels in position for stereo 619s. When they ran the ropes, though, Rhea Ripley tripped them up, and Priest put Ray down with a Uranage. So, now we get to the moment of truth here in this match. We hear music. Can't really tell what it is at first, but we hear music, so you know who's coming. They had a special entrance set up by the head of the entranceway. So if you're in the building, right? Like if you're in Nissan's, if you're in Nissan Stadium and you're sitting over there, right? And you see the crew coming over and they're setting up this elaborate platform in this whole entranceway. It just spoils the whole fucking thing for you. So there's this whole elaborate setup. Flames are shooting up. We see fire everywhere and smoke. And to the surprise of no one, the mystery man in the creepy vignettes was indeed Edge. Edge shows up. He is cosplaying as Michael Jackson from Thriller. He's got the red jacket on. He's wearing like black, red jacket. He had shades on. It felt like another Brood-like entrance with the flames and him rising up and everything. It wasn't exactly like a Brood entrance knockoff like last year's SummerSlam was. That was a very cool entrance last year. This was not that. But he was raised up onto a platform in between all the flames. And he walked down a small little flight of stairs. Damian Priest sees this, and Damian Priest leaves the ring. Oh, there he is on screen. There's Cocaine Tony. I think he enjoyed SummerSlam tonight. He's really diving into that pile. Look at him. He's got it all by his nose. Tony's having a good time. Tony is having a fun Saturday night. Every stream I've done this week, he pops up on screen. He's got the big mound on the desk right in front of him. I think this guy needs help. He doesn't want anybody's help, though. You need to want to be helped in order to be helped. There's nothing I can do. So Priest meets him in the aisleway, and Edge delivers a big boot. Edge slides into the ring. He takes out Balor with a spear. Takes out Damian Priest with a spear when Priest gets back into the ring. And the Mysterios catch Balor with a double 619. Ray looked like he was going to drop the dime on Balor, but he fell awkwardly onto him and he pinned him anyway. Ray ate the mat on that dive, and that was the first moment of the night where I noticed, I think the ring ropes might be a little loose. You might want to tighten those ring ropes up a little bit. And I believe that even more so in the Pat McAfee match. But either he ate the mat or he face planted right onto Finn Balor's abs. But again, Ray took a spill and he was grabbing his forearm. So I thought maybe he got hurt. Hopefully he's okay. He was grabbing his forearm. He did not look very happy about, the finish of that match. So I thought the match itself was okay. I mean, nothing terribly exciting. It was all designed to build to the return of Edge. And I got to tell you, part of it is that we all kind of knew who it was going to be. But I don't know, just the way it all came off and everything, even the reaction. Now, I wasn't in the stadium. So maybe somebody who was in the stadium would say, oh man, the place went nuts. They went nuts. They went apeshit when Edge came out. This felt a little underwhelming to me. This didn't have the same feeling that, some of his previous returns or special entrances have had. So it felt like there was something missing from this segment. I was expecting it, but I felt like I was expecting more. I don't know what that is, but it came off a little underwhelming to me. So I feel like it's kind of the law of diminishing returns now. Every return is going to mean less and less. But the match itself was okay. And then we had Pat McAfee. This was actually one of the matches I was most looking forward to seeing on this show. Believe it or not, a Baron Corbin match was one of the matches I was most looking forward to seeing. Am I feeling okay? I can't believe I just said those words. I can't believe those words just came out of my mouth, but they did. Pat McAfee, one-on-one with Baron Corbin. Michael Cole did commentary with Corey Graves for the match and said that neither of them were going to be able to be unbiased because Corey Graves has a history with Corbin. They've been friends for many years. As Graves said during the pay-per-view, he goes, Corbin slept on my couch once upon a time. So Corbin and Graves are good friends, and Cole said obviously he and McAfee are friends, and he was going to be rooting for Pat. As Corbin was making his entrance, they cut to a shot of a choir off in the distance that was singing Bum-Ass Corbin. They had a Bum-Ass Corbin chant. And that same choir then sang Pat McAfee to the ring. I was hoping we would get the Seven Nation Army entrance again like we did at WrestleMania. This was lame compared to the entrance he had at WrestleMania. And McAfee was out there wearing gym shorts and a tank top. So basically Kevin Owens. Graves told Cole he liked him more when he wasn't allowed to have an opinion. And Cole responded to that by saying, that's changed. A lot has changed. So when I said before that Michael Cole tonight sounded like the weight of the world was lifted off his shoulders, this is what I was talking about. So we know what he's alluding to when he says that. Cole's sitting there talking about how, a lot of things have changed. Things are going to be different now. You know that Michael Cole, on this pay-per-view tonight, you know that he is loving his job just a little bit more. Maybe a lot more, but he's loving his job way more now than he was 2 weeks ago. You could just hear it in his voice. Corbin took a shot at McAfee, who responded with a super kick. McAfee followed that up with an early clothesline that sent Corbin out over the top rope to the floor. Moments later, McAfee went for a superplex. Corbin shoved McAfee, who did a backflip, landed on his feet. Corbin blasted him with a shotgun drop kick by Baron Corbin. That I was not expecting to see. So Corbin, after that, starts taunting Michael Cole. He's asking him, how's your boy doing? He's heckling him. Corbin ends up putting McAfee on the announce desk. He's working him over with punches. Corbin then goes over to Michael Cole. He shoves Cole. He shoves Cole back into his seat. And he puts McAfee back in the ring. Corbin went to the ropes. McAfee shot up and he joined him on the top rope. But he almost lost his balance. So he did this at WrestleMania with Theory, and again, smooth, came off well. In this match, not so much. There were multiple times during this match where I thought Pat McAfee was going to die. And this was one of those moments where it could have been a disaster had he slipped and fallen. He was very wobbly. He was able to maintain his balance, though, and he superplexed Corbin to the mat. McAfee draped an arm over Corbin, got a near fall. Corbin charged at McAfee after he recovered. McAfee moved, and Corbin crashed into the ring post, tumbled out to the floor. So McAfee goes back up to the top. Climbs back up to the top rope, and again he slips, but he regains his balance. He's doing the old, like, whoa, like he almost fell backwards. But he regained his balance, and he nailed a swanton bomb onto a standing Baron Corbin on the floor. But the way that he hit Corbin, it's almost like he almost slid straight down. So he tucked his head on the way down. He almost landed straight down on his head. He looked like he almost killed himself there. So that was nearly a disaster. And again, there were a few of those moments with McAfee here in this match. Back in the ring, Corbin went for the end of days. McAfee flipped out of it, and he shoved Corbin, who accidentally bumped the referee. While the referee was down, McAfee kicked Corbin in the balls. Revenge for Corbin doing the same thing to him on SmackDown the other night. The finish was McAfee going for a code red from the middle rope, but didn't quite pull it off the way that I think he intended to. And honestly, this looked more like a sunset flip out of the corner. And he hits him with this sunset flip, and that was enough for him to score the pinfall. Even Michael Cole on commentary said it wasn't pretty. That's like Jim Ross. Whenever somebody would botch something and it was so obvious they just completely fucked it up, he would always slip that line in there about a little bowling shoe ugly. Little bowling shoe ugly. Remember that awful Jackie Gata, Bradshaw, Harvard Chris tag team match from Raw back in 2002? I remember when that match was over. And that's one of the worst matches in Raw history. That's more than bowling shoe ugly. That's like somebody grabbed a branch off the ugly tree and beat the fucking shit out of somebody with it. But even after that match, a little bowling shoe ugly. This was Michael Cole's way of saying that this was a little bowling shoe ugly here. But he said it was effective. It worked. Pat won the match. He got the job done. After the match, McAfee walked over to the announcers. Graves told McAfee he got lucky. McAfee gave him a crotch chop. And he chugged a beer that somebody handed to him, and he walked to the back. And we didn't see Pat again for the rest of the show. The rest of the show was handled by Michael Cole and Corey Graves. I can say that this was, having now seen all of the matches that Pat McAfee has ever had. Going back to the match he had with Adam Cole in NXT and the War Games match, every Pat McAfee match, this was the worst out of all of the Pat McAfee matches. I still thought it was a fun match. I don't think this was terrible, but it was easily the worst of all the matches that I have seen Pat McAfee involved in. But that's the thing with Pat. You know, he's fun to watch. And the fans love him. They love him. They cheer for him. They get behind him. But there were a lot of wonky spots here in this match. One thing coming out of this match that I am convinced of, and I'll make this prediction here and now, I think that we're getting Corey Graves back in the ring against Pat McAfee at Survivor Series. Survivor Series every year, unless Triple H changes things, Survivor Series every year is Raw versus SmackDown. I've pitched my own ideas for how I think Survivor Series should be, and maybe with Triple H he'll be more open to it, because Triple H is the one who finally got War Games back in, on television in NXT, because Vince wouldn't do it on the main roster. I've always thought that War Games was the perfect gimmick for Survivor Series. And I would love to see them abandon the current format and just do Raw versus SmackDown War Games matches. And then flesh out the card with other matches. But again, that's up to him. But if they're doing Raw versus SmackDown this year, especially based on all the back and forth here, and we know Corey Graves is medically cleared. He's admitted that, a year or two ago, he just wanted to see if he can get medically cleared, and he got cleared. He's been cleared for a while. So if he wants to get back in the ring and wrestle a match, he can do that. I think we're setting up for McAfee against Graves. Raw versus SmackDown at Survivor Series. So Samantha Irvin introduced the man who will challenge for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship at Clash at the Castle in September. Drew McIntyre, who beat Sheamus on SmackDown last night. McIntyre had his sword with him, and he had a microphone. He cut a promo. The aisle was so long, he didn't bother going to the ring. He went halfway down the aisle. He said, you know what? This is a good place to park myself. I'm going to cut my promo here in the aisleway. And he talked about how he and Sheamus beat the hell out of each other. He said that he could barely get out of bed today, but it was all worth it because now he is the number one contender. And he looked over and he saw this young boy in the crowd. And he goes over and he asked him, what's your name? And he says that his name is Colt. And McIntyre gives Colt a shout out. He gets all of a sudden the crowd starts chanting Colt. So they start chanting for this kid's name. Either that or they're very big Colt Cabana fans. I'm not sure. McIntyre said that he would beat the ass of whoever won tonight. And he would take both championships. And he asked the crowd for a Claymore countdown. And they gave it to him. And he raised his sword in the air. And they counted down and they shot fireworks off from the top of the stadium. So they got Drew McIntyre on the show. That was his big appearance here. But he will be in the main event at Clash at the Castle. We shall see if they get Tyson Fury to be involved in that pay-per-view. Not to wrestle McIntyre, but to be involved possibly as maybe a referee or an enforcer. I mean, there hasn't been any recent talk in recent weeks about it, but I know it's something that he has talked about, and I think he's had discussions with WWE about being part of that show in some way, and that could play into how Roman Reigns eventually loses his championships. It could have to do with Tyson Fury being at ringside, trying to make sure the Usos don't get involved. I mean, think about it. The Usos get involved in most of his matches. You would need somebody there to counteract them, right? Tyson Fury would kind of make that. I'd much rather Tyson Fury, if he's going to be on that show, be on the outside as an enforcer than be in a fucking match. I mean, I've had my fill of celebrities, and the one match that he did have sucked. So we'll see. Keep that name in mind, Tyson Fury. I could see him having an involvement in that main event. So coming up next, we had the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship on the line with Jeff Jarrett, Nashville's own Double J. Jeff Jarrett as the special guest referee. The Usos defending against the Street Profits. This was a very different match than the one that they had at Money in the Bank earlier this month. This did not have nearly the level of heat and crowd investment that match had at Money in the Bank, which is funny to me because at Money in the Bank, originally that was going to be in a stadium. It got moved to the smallest possible building that they could get into because the T-Mobile Arena was booked up by UFC that night. So they ended up at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, about 10, 11,000 people. And the crowd was just unbelievably loud and into everything these two teams were doing at Money in the Bank. And it really helped enhance what was a great match, right? Loud crowd, hanging on every near fall. They come into this stadium tonight, 40,000 people, and it wasn't nearly as loud. And these people did not seem nearly as invested in this match as they were in Las Vegas earlier this month. And that was one of the most noticeable things to me. The match started out slow. Dawkins did a flip dive about 10 minutes in. Things started to pick up, and Dawkins did a big flip dive out onto the Usos at ringside. And then back in the ring, Dawkins put Jey Uso down with a spinning neck breaker for a near fall. We are getting very close here to 800 likes. What is this? 800. What kind of pansy number is that? We got to go at least 1,200 here tonight. At least. Are you kidding me? Hit that like button. Let's get those likes up. Before I even get to the super chats, we need to have at least 1,000. What's going on here? Don't disappoint me like this match disappointed me. I can only take so much disappointment in one night. So Montez Ford tagged in, and Dawkins shoulder blocked Jimmy into the air. Ford caught him with a suplex on the way down. The Usos hit the Profits with super kicks and then hit a double super kick on Angelo Dawkins. Jimmy hit an Uso splash onto Dawkins from the top, got a near fall. Jimmy then complained to Jeff Jarrett. He said, "You're counting too slow." And Jarrett had been calling things straight down the middle here in this match, but Jimmy took issue with the referee's count. Usos went to the top rope on opposite ends of the ring, and they hit a double splash onto Dawkins. Montez Ford, though, dove in to break up the pin attempt. Now I see. Now I see. We're getting to 900, huh? Still not there yet. We got to get that number up. A little while later, Jay went for a super kick that Dawkins avoided, and Jarrett caught the kick. He spun Jay around. So he almost kicked Jeff Jarrett again. That would have been the second time, because Jarrett ate a super kick, an accidental kick from Jey Uso on Friday on SmackDown. So this time he caught the foot, and he spun him around. Dawkins put Jay down. He tagged in Montez, who hit the big top rope frog splash. Ford, though, sold the ribs, kind of like RVD used to do back in the day. He gets so much height on this thing. He came right down. He's selling the ribs like he's hurt, and it cost him some very valuable time. By the time he crawled over to make the cover, Jay kicked out. And Montez Ford did not appreciate Jeff Jarrett's count. He was not happy. He thought that was 3. He started mouthing off to Double J. I mean, he was heeling on this guy. He was not happy about this at all. So he tagged out, and after he tagged out, he went to go hit the ropes. He was going to go for a dive through the ropes out onto the Usos. As he came in to hit the ropes, the Usos met him with a double super kick. And they took Ford out of the ring. They threw him over the barricade. They deposited him into the crowd. And so that took care of Montez Ford. Usos gave Angelo Dawkins a double super kick on the outside, threw him back in the ring, hit him with another pair of super kicks, and then put him down with the 1D, and Jimmy covered Dawkins and pinned him to retain the tag team championship. I thought the match was good, but this was a far cry from the match that we got earlier this month, which I said at the time I thought was going to end up on some lists as far as being one of the best matches all year. I think it was in the conversation. I still do. That match that we saw, Money in the Bank, between these two teams was what is so great about tag team wrestling, especially when you have a crowd that's that invested in what they're seeing. This was good, but it never rose to that level. Cole, when the match was over, and I'll let you guys, I don't want to get into a whole debate about this, but I will let you debate in the chat what you guys think of what Michael Cole had to say, because Michael Cole said that there can be no doubt after this match that the Usos are the greatest tag team of all time. Of course, I disagree, but chime in the chat and let me know what you think, because that's the WWE. They say that about John Cena. John Cena is the greatest of all time. And some people may think that he is, but, he's not. So now they're building up the Usos as the greatest tag team that ever lived. Chime in the chat. Let me know what you think. And if you disagree, who do you think is the greatest tag team of all time? We got plenty of people. We got thousands of people in here, so I want to hear from you guys. So Jeff Jarrett ended up being a total non-factor in this match, which I guess is what he promised all along, right? He said, I'm here to call it right down the middle. I'm not going to favor one side over the other. There was no big swerve. Nobody got hit with a guitar. There were no shenanigans. So Jeff Jarrett being involved here was completely pointless. They wanted somebody from Nashville. That was the whole tie-in with Jarrett. And that was it. He was a total non-factor here in this match. But the most important thing here in this match is Montez Ford and the seed that was planted here tonight for what will eventually be the Montez Ford heel turn and the split of the Street Profits, which is coming, I think, sooner rather than later. You'll notice also Montez has been bulking up. He says he's been eating nonstop peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to get himself bulked up. So he's even bulking up for the part. This guy is going to be a future world champion. There's not a doubt in my mind about that. I think when I first saw him and I found out that he and Bianca were together, I didn't know at first that they were together and, they were an item. But when I was first seeing Bianca Belair in NXT, I thought that the real money in these two is in them together. I mean, she would wrestle in the women's division. He would do his thing, obviously, on the main roster. But the money in them were as a heel, power couple. And I still feel that way. Not that I would turn Bianca anytime soon, but I think long term, these two being on screen together and being like a heel power couple on TV, I'm telling you, that's the way to go. I'm telling you, that is a recipe for money. But that's further down the road. But the seed was planted tonight for the Montez Ford heel turn. He was showing more intensity. He was acting heelish, when he was going off on Jeff Jarrett, and the announcers were like, what's he so upset about? It was a fair call by the referee. We saw some hints of it here in this match tonight. So I say, strap the rocket to this guy and let him fly. We see how high he can get on that frog splash. Strap the rocket to him, let him fly, and let's see what he can do. I think he's got all the tools. He's got the charisma. He can talk. We see him in the ring, right? He can work. He checks all the boxes. But there is a problem in this, which is that when the Street Profits split, they don't have a lot of tag teams. In fact, they have virtually no tag teams. They have the Usos and the New Day. How many more times are we going to be left with the Usos and the New Day? It's like Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. How many times are we supposed to watch that before you just get sick and tired of it? And you turn the TV off. You have the Usos, you have the Street Profits, you have the New Day. They're trying to push the Viking Raiders and make them something after doing nothing with them for so long. They've got the Alpha Academy, who half the time they're booked like a complete joke. Right? It was only a few weeks ago we had Otis on television fucking vomiting his hot dogs up on TV. And what else is there? I mean, that's pretty much it. Those are the main teams right there. So it's nice that we saw what Triple H did with the Raw Women's Division here at the opening of the show tonight. Rome wasn't built in a day. These things will take time. Triple H needs to also focus on what to do about the tag team division. The tag team division is in dire straits right now. They're going to have to call some new teams up, create some new teams. It doesn't matter whether the Street Profits honestly stay together or not, but if they split and they go their separate ways, that just makes that tag team division that much weaker than it already is. That's the only problem with splitting the Street Profits up. But they've now lost so many times. Between that and the fact that they're clearly building frustration with Montez Ford, and it was Dawkins who lost the match for the team tonight, it's pretty clear where we're headed here. They showed Kid Rock in the crowd. I don't know why they showed Kid Rock in the crowd, because the last time they showed Kid Rock in the crowd on one of these pay-per-views, he flipped off the camera, and Kevin Dunn had to cut to a black screen. They cut to a black screen. So I don't even remember what pay-per-view it was, frankly. But the last pay-per-view, whenever it was, Kid Rock is on screen, and he's sitting there, right? And they got the camera on him. Oh, Kid Rock is joining us tonight. He's putting his fingers up, and Kevin Dunn is like, "Oh, we got to hit the button. We got to hit the button." And I'm watching the pay-per-view, and my screen goes black because this fucking idiot is putting his fingers up. So what do they do tonight? They put Kid Rock back on camera, and he ends up doing the same thing. At the very end here, he ends up flipping off the camera. But before that, see, they didn't black out the screen fast enough, because he is sitting next to this woman. Trailer Trash Tammy is what she calls herself. Trailer Trash Tammy from YouTube. Apparently she's some big YouTube personality. She is sitting there with Kid Rock. I thought it was his wife or something. I didn't know who she was at first. And they start making out. Tongue and everything. They start making out on camera. Why couldn't they black out the screen then? Why did they wait until he flipped off the screen? So I did not need to see that. And maybe they'll eventually learn their lesson and stop putting this fucking guy on camera. So all of a sudden, no entrance, no music, no warning, no announcement, no nothing. Matt Riddle shows up. And he is as serious as Riddle has ever been. Riddle's always out there. He's got a big smile on his face. It's always fun and games and comedy with him and birds flying out of his fucking feet and all this stuff. Kangaroos or whatever it is. No funny business this time. He gets into the ring. He is not medically cleared. He was originally supposed to wrestle Seth Rollins on the show. They did an injury angle on Raw Monday night to take him out of the pay-per-view. He is not hurt. It is a storyline injury, as you could tell from tonight. But he gets into the ring, and security is all over the ring outside trying to convince him to get out. You know, you're not supposed to be here. You're not medically cleared. What are you doing? You're not on the show. He's on the mic, and he is calling out Seth Rollins for a fight. He doesn't care that he is not medically cleared. He wants Rollins to come out. So Rollins comes out, and Rollins is also surrounded by security people trying to stop him on his way to the ring. And he gets halfway down the aisle, and they start brawling, end up in the ring. Rollins gives him another curb stomp. I've lost count of how many times Matt Riddle has been curb stomped. I have no idea. I mean, he's been curb stomped so many times now. I don't even know how many times it's been. And he leaves him laying with the stomp, and Rollins left. And that was the last that we saw of Seth Rollins. So for all of the wondering, what is Seth Rollins going to do? Surely they're not going to leave him off the show, right? They'll put him in a match with somebody else. They'll have some kind of like a mystery opponent for him. Now, I cannot blame WWE for this. This is our fault. This is your fault. This is my fault. Because we all let our imaginations run wild and assumed, based on Rollins posting that tweet the other day about apologizing, I'm so sorry, I was supposed to be on the show, and people who paid money to come see me. It was very weird because he's a heel, right? But it was a very babyface tweet. And then Triple H responded and said, I hear you. Because at the end of that tweet, he was like, one of these days, maybe they'll hear us, right? And Triple H says, I hear you. And so, I read into that and I think, okay, well, Triple H is going to find him another opponent. We all just assumed he was going to wrestle somebody, and in fact, he didn't wrestle anybody. So all the people who were wondering about Johnny Gargano, and all the people who were thinking, oh, maybe it's Bray Wyatt is going to come back, or they're going to call up somebody from NXT. Nothing. This was a complete letdown, but it was not a letdown that I can really blame on WWE. I did think it was a lame segment. I thought, I won't say that it was pointless, because it wasn't pointless. It did serve a purpose, which was to build to the eventual match between these two. For whatever reason, they decided to boot this off the show and move it to supposedly Clash at the Castle. They're going to try to hold off until Clash at the Castle, and they'll do Riddle against Rollins on that show. So it did serve that purpose, but yes, very disappointing that they did not end up putting Rollins in some kind of a match on this show. We had Liv Morgan defending her Smackdown Women's Championship against rowdy Ronda Rousey. Yeah, yes, I know. There was some report. There was some report that said, was it Brian Alvarez? I forgot who it was attributed to, but they suggested that it was going to be Dolph Ziggler as Seth Rollins' opponent here on this pay-per-view. And I don't doubt that Rollins and Ziggler, they would have had a very good match, but who could possibly give a shit? You're going to suddenly add I almost called him Duke. You're going to add Duke Ziggler against Seth Rollins on this show? Why? You're better off not even bothering. Didn't make any sense. So I don't know if Alvarez actually reported that or not, but no, there was no Dolph Ziggler anywhere on this show. So we had Ronda and we had Liv. And there was no way that Liv Morgan was going to walk out of SummerSlam with the SmackDown Women's Championship with a clean win over Ronda Rousey. You had to know that there would be some kind of a screwy finish or some kind of interference, maybe by a Charlotte Flair. Otherwise, this woman was not going to get out of this month with that SmackDown Women's Championship. So there was a lot of sloppiness at the beginning of this. They just seemed like they were not on the same page. Ronda was trying for an armbar. You could see the two of them plainly talking and having a whole conversation with each other. They were trying to talk each other through this. Rousey hoisted Morgan up for Piper's Pit. Liv elbowed her way out of it. And Morgan hit a code breaker. She went for her Oblivion finish. And Rousey stuffed it. She put Morgan in an armbar. And Liv rolled out of it, countered into a submission hold, but Rousey powered her up and had Morgan on her back. And Liv then executed a crucifix driver for a 2 count. Rousey caught Morgan in an armbar, and Morgan was able to inch her way over to the rope. She got her toes, her foot, on the bottom rope. Morgan sold the arm in the corner. Referee says, we got to call the trainer over here. And the trainer comes over to check on Liv Morgan in the corner, make sure that she's okay, see if she can continue. And Liv says that she's fine. I'm fine. I want to continue. So Rousey immediately rolls Morgan into another armbar and Rousey's shoulders are down on the mat. So you got to picture this. She's got this woman in an armbar, but Liv is basically standing up. So Rousey's shoulders are positioned down on the mat. The referee sees this, and the referee begins counting. What the referee does not see is right before he counted 3, Liv, who is standing up but trapped in this armbar, can take no more, and she starts to tap. She starts tapping out. Referee didn't see it. All he saw were Ronda's shoulders down, and he pinned her shoulders to the mat. Liv Morgan pins Ronda Rousey, one of the only people to pin Ronda Rousey, and retains her SmackDown Women's Championship. She lives to fight another day. Liv Morgan has found a way to get out of the month of July with her championship. And Rousey is not happy about this. She's complaining to the referee. They show replays of it. And Cole and Graves are watching this, and they see it plain as day. And they're like, yeah, it was a blown call by the referee. I thought the finish was clever. I actually thought if they wanted to find a clever, creative way to get out of this without making Ronda look weak by just having her get pinned, but they want to keep the title on Liv Morgan because why take it away from her so soon after she won it? This was a clever way to go about doing it. I didn't think the match itself was any good. I thought it was a bad match. But I thought the finish was very clever. And this whole thing went less than 5 minutes. So Ronda is pitching a fit when this thing is over, and she snaps. She gets a real mean look on her face, and she snaps, and she attacks Liv from behind. She boots her from behind, puts her back in the armbar. Cole on commentary, who's a big Liv Morgan fan, is freaking out about this, calling for them to get Ronda off this woman. And the referee, Dan Engler, convinces her to finally let go of the hold. She then takes the referee, gives him a judo throw, takes him over, puts him in the armbar. Now Michael Cole is really losing his mind on commentary. And he's begging for somebody to come down and help this referee. And eventually we have some officials, Jamie Noble, Sean Daivari, they come down and she releases the hold. And the announcer's position on this is that Ronda had every right to be upset because she was screwed, but this was not the right way to go about handling the situation. So we have to wait and see if this is, in fact, a heel turn. That's what this came off as. That's what this felt like. This felt like the Ronda Rousey heel turn that has been sorely needed. And I say that not that she's not getting the reaction from the fans every week that she wants. I mean, Ronda Rousey comes out and she gets cheered. She's got a lot of fans out there. But I think the right role for her all along when she first came back was as a heel. And I think even promo-wise, her promos are painful. Ronda Rousey with a microphone in her hand. I mean, they used to call Ken Shamrock the world's most dangerous man. That was, 30 years ago almost. Well, Ronda Rousey with a microphone in her hand is the world's most dangerous woman. Okay, because you never know what you're going to get. But it's probably not going to be good. Ronda Rousey going heel and embracing the hate that she was getting, especially at first, because she used to be getting from the fans. I always thought that was the right way to go. Now it looks like we're finally going to be getting that Ronda Rousey heel turn. And I think that is the best possible move for her. And to tie it back to what we saw at the beginning of the pay-per-view, if Becky Lynch is going babyface, Ronda Rousey is going heel, they're settling into those roles just in time heading into WrestleMania next year. By the time you get to WrestleMania season, you'll have Becky firmly back in the role of babyface or tweener or whatever. Ronda, let's say, is firmly in the heel role. Those are the right roles for them to be in heading into a potential WrestleMania match. So the pieces are falling into place perfectly. I don't know if that was the plan all along or if that's the Triple H effect. He can take the credit for it. But that is absolutely the right move to make. So after a break, because on Peacock we get these random video packages. It might just be the bigger Peacock package without the ads. So what we get are these video packages on random talents. I got one for Charlotte Flair. There was one earlier for Kevin Owens. 2 people who weren't even on the show. So when that runs its course, they cut back to the ring and they introduce Mayor Kane, since they're in Tennessee, right? The mayor of Knox County. So they introduce Mayor Kane. who is standing in the middle of the ring, full suit. We have corporate Kane. His job tonight is to announce the attendance figure. So I was waiting to see what number they were going to announce. And the fake number that they gave for the attendance was 48,449. That was the fake number they gave here on the show. That's about 10,000 more than what the actual attendance was. And I trust WrestleTix on this. The actual attendance was very impressive. It was just shy of 40,000. I don't know why they have to exaggerate so much, but that's what they do. So instead of 40,000, they claimed it was closer to 50K. And they shot Pyro out of the ring posts before he left. And that was the last we saw of Kane here on this show. At least he didn't tweet. And so now that brings us to the main event. The match that this entire pay-per-view was built around. A fresh match that we've never seen before between these two young bucks here. We had what they claimed was their last ever match. Brock Lesnar, one-on-one, against Roman Reigns in a last man standing match for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. First ever last man standing match in SummerSlam history, and the 9th SummerSlam main event for Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar now owns more SummerSlam main events than any other single person in history. I've always thought of Bret Hart as Mr. SummerSlam. I get questions sometimes. Who do you think is Mr. Survivor Series? I used to say Randy Orton. Who do you think is Mr. Royal Rumble? I used to say John Cena. Mr. WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels, right? Maybe Undertaker. But Bret Hart to me was always Mr. SummerSlam, and he still is. But you would not be wrong if you said Brock Lesnar, because when you look back on Brock Lesnar's body of work, he has had a lot of very big matches in SummerSlam history. He's won championships. He's wrestled big names. He had that great match years ago with CM Punk. He's wrestled The Undertaker. He's obliterated John Cena. He wrestled Kurt Angle, right? This year it's Roman Reigns. On and on and on and on. There was that great four-way match, right? Was it 2017, I think, or 2016? They had a four-way for the Universal title, I believe it was. So Brock Lesnar can certainly stake his claim to Mr. SummerSlam, but I am still partial to Bret myself. So the champion entered first with Heyman and the Usos in tow. The Usos, though, they stayed back. And Heyman came down to the ring with Roman. Lesnar came out and he stopped, looked over, and he walked over to this giant red tractor that just so happened to be parked off to the side. I guess they just so happened to have a tractor parked over there. And Brock said, "Oh, okay, I know how to ride one of these things." So he goes over to the tractor. He climbs into this fucking thing. There's a flannel vest in the truck. He puts that on. He puts his cowboy hat on. And so we have Cowboy Brock in his tractor, riding the tractor down to the ring. He raised the front end loader high into the air as he rode this tractor down to the ring. He drove it right up to the ring. He climbed out of the tractor. He climbed into the front end loader, right? The thing that they use to scoop up shit. He climbs into it. Now he's standing in it. So now he's standing 10, 12 feet above the ring as they're doing the ring introductions, and he cuts off Mike Rome, and he has a mic in his hand, and he introduces himself, calls himself a big-ass country boy here to kick Roman Reigns' ass. And to kick things off here in this match, Lesnar dives off the tractor onto Roman Reigns to begin the match. So if you would have told me that we are going to see, to open this main event tonight, everybody dives. I always talk about the diving problem in wrestling. Everybody dives. Big guys, little guys, men, women, doesn't matter, right? Announcers, celebrities, everybody fucking dives these days, right? I did a dive before I went live tonight. I didn't show you guys on camera, but I dove right into this fucking chair. I was so excited here to come on the air with you live tonight. I dove into this chair, okay? Everybody dives, as Lance Archer would say. So the last thing I would have predicted, though, is that Brock Lesnar would join the trend. And now we have Brock Lesnar doing dives in matches. They showed a replay of this. And when you look at it from the perspective of Roman Reigns, it is the scariest fucking sight in the world. You're standing in the ring, you look up, and you see a flying Brock Lesnar coming at you. I thought that when I first heard about flying, like, water bugs and flying cockroaches, I thought that was the scariest thing in the world. That is the scariest sight that I've ever seen. So Brock flies, and he tackles Roman, and we're off to the races here in this match. Overhead belly to belly on Roman on the floor. And he picks up Roman. He throws him into the ring steps. Gives him an overhead belly to belly off the ring steps. So Brock is just, he's having his way with this guy. He is having his way with Roman Reigns here in this match. Lesnar throws him over the barricade. And he had a little bit of trouble. He had a little bit of trouble getting him over. But Brock, at the end of the day, he's going to get you over no matter what. So he throws this guy over the barricade onto the floor. I can see why Roman, he was on, what was it, the Today Show, or he did some interview this week. And he said he does not enjoy working with Brock because of how tough it is on his body. It is not a fun experience. I could see why, watching this match here. So they brawl into the crowd. It's last man standing, so falls basically count anywhere. Lesnar drove Reigns spine first into a steel truss or beam or whatever the fuck you call that thing. He brings him back to ringside. Brock tried to do a standing jump onto the barricade. See, Brock was trying to be a little too cool. Brock was trying to be too cool for school here. And after he threw Roman over the barricade back to ringside, Brock tried to do a vertical leap. No hands, vertical leap onto the barricade. Well, he slipped. He slipped and he fell back onto his feet. And you could tell Brock was pissed. Like, if Brock botches a move, I don't want to be the person in the ring with him who then has to take whatever that next move is going to be. Unfortunately, that was the fate that was dealt here to Roman Reigns. You know Brock was pissed about that botch. So he pulled out a table from underneath the ring. Heyman distracted him. And when he turned back around, Reigns picked him up and he gave Lesnar a Samoan drop through the table. So Lesnar eventually gets up. And Reigns hits him with the ring steps. And then he sets up another table. He puts Lesnar through that table with a Uranage. And again, referee Chad Patton is right there. He starts his count. Brock, though, makes it up at the count of 7. So finally, they took the match into the ring. Reigns set up for the Superman punch. I was wondering, how many Superman punches are we going to get? What's the over-under on the number of spears and German suplexes? I lost track. But he set up for the Superman punch. He landed it. That took Brock down only to one knee. So he sets up for a second Superman punch and he hits it. And that one only took Brock down momentarily. Reigns sets up for a spear. He connects. Brock, though, makes it back up at the count of 7. So now Lesnar comes back with an F5 attempt. Roman, though, slipped out. And when Roman came out of it, Brock sidestepped him. He sent Reigns through the ropes, out to the floor, right into the pile of table debris. Roman got all cut up on his arms. They both got all cut up and they were bleeding on their back and stuff. Brock climbed back into the tractor, though. So Roman is outside the ring. And Brock gets into his trusty tractor. He backs it up a little bit. He lowers the front end loader back down. And then he gets back out of the tractor. And he grabs the ring steps. He hits Roman with the ring steps. The crowd is silent throughout all of this. So as much as I ended up enjoying this main event, the first few minutes, even as wild as it was, the crowd didn't seem all that into what was going on here. But it built over the period of 20 some odd minutes here. Eventually it did finally start to build, but I didn't think the crowd was all that into the first few minutes of this match. So the referee is counting Roman, and Roman is barely moving. Counts to 7, counts to 8. Finally, he makes it back up. Brock brings him over to the tractor, and he dumps Roman into the front end loader, right? He just throws him in there. Climbs back inside the tractor. He raises the front end loader back 10 feet up into the air where it was before. and he deposits Reigns into the ring. He basically dumps him out of it into the ring. Now, I say 10 feet up. It looked like he lowered it a little bit. I think in theory the idea sounded cool, but in execution it didn't really look all that impressive when he dumped him out of the thing. So now Roman gets German suplexed, gets a second German suplex. Brock hits a third German suplex. Lesnar follows that up with the first F5 of the match. And the referee begins to count. And Roman barely made it back up before the 10 count. I mean, this was really pushing it here. This was questionable. But he barely made it back up before the count of 10. Lesnar again with Reigns on his shoulders for another F5. Reigns, though, caught him with a guillotine on the way down. Lesnar escaped. He took Reigns down with a guillotine of his own, and he choked him out. He choked out Roman Reigns. Now, if this was a regular match, Brock Lesnar would be the champion right now. But it's last man standing. So the referee is telling him, let go, I've got to count him. He lets go. Reigns is out. And the referee begins counting. And again, Roman Reigns makes it back up barely at the 9 count. 9.5. He uses the assistance of the ropes and he gets back to his feet. So, Farmer Brock gets behind the wheel of his tractor yet again. He backs up the tractor. He lowers the front end loader. He rams it into the ring. Now, the ring moved about 2 or 3 feet. Michael Cole is telling Corey Graves, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, they're scared to death, right? They don't know what this guy's going to do. They don't know what he's capable of. So the ring moves. And Brock gets the front end loader underneath, and he proceeds to do something. I've never seen this before. We've seen the ring collapse. We've seen them do all kinds of stunts over the years, and it makes for a cool visual and all that. I can honestly say I can't remember seeing anything like this before. So the front of that tractor now is underneath the ring, and he proceeds to lift the ring. It had to be a good 10 feet up off the ground. Like, had to be. Roman rolls out of the ring and out to the, which I laughed at. He rolls out of the ring out to the floor. And to just show you the visual, because I pulled this image for those who maybe didn't see the pay-per-view, and I'll pop it up on screen here. I mean, just take a look at the absurdity of this image. I've never seen anything like this before. And they've done stunts with the ring before, but nothing like this. And they left the ring that way. Brock left the ring that way. So if you were sitting in that area behind where the ring is raised, you couldn't see shit. I don't know. Maybe they had video screens up, up above. I don't know. It's an open air stadium, so probably not. But what a visual that is. I mean, this is the perfect image to just kind of tell you how fucking crazy this match was. As Madcap Moss gets bashed in the head with a holiday gift here in that super chat. Hey, Thunder Knight, thank you for the super chat, brother. I'm going to be reading all of your super chats here in just a few minutes if you want to get them on in. So thank you, Thunder Knight. So anyway, the ring is propped up, as you can see there in that image. So Brock leaves the tractor, climbs out of it, and he heads over to Roman, and the Usos come out through the crowd to attack Brock Lesnar. He puts them both down. Down goes Jimmy. Down goes Jay. Paul Heyman gets up in Brock Lesnar's face, and he's telling Brock to stop. Leave him alone. Remember that guy with Britney Spears many years ago? Leave Britney alone. Oh, leave Britney alone. That's basically Paul Heyman here. Leave him alone. Leave the tribal chief alone. Right? He doesn't want him to do any more damage to Roman Reigns. He goes, you want the belt here? And he puts the WWE title on one shoulder. He puts the Universal title on Brock's other shoulder. He says, this guy is my meal ticket. I have a family to feed. Just take the belts and go. Leave him alone. And Brock grabs Paul Heyman, and he hoists Heyman up on his shoulders, which is, no small feat. And he gives Paul Heyman an F5 through the announce table. I don't think Paul Heyman has taken an F5 since, I'm trying to think if there was a time in the last few years after they split, but you'd probably have to go back to 2003 when Heyman and Big Show both, they were being abused by Brock. They were working together every night. And Big Show was taking all those F5s and landing on his hip, and Paul Heyman, who's not a wrestler, taking all these F5s. You don't really see Heyman taking a bump. And Heyman is 20 years older now than he was then. So that was a big bump for him to take. And he went crashing through the announce table. And Heyman didn't do shit after that. That was the last that Paul Heyman did anything here in this match. Roman Reigns, though, was back up, and he spears Brock Lesnar. And down goes Brock. Both men now are down. And right on cue, we hear the music, A-Town, down. And here comes Austin Theory. He's running down to the ring with a referee. He's got his Money in the Bank briefcase. He nails Roman in the head with the briefcase. Brock Lesnar, though, picks up Theory, and he gives him an F5 on the floor before he could cash in. Usos are back up. They drop Lesnar with a pair of super kicks. Brock eventually beats the referee's count at 9. He gets to his feet. Roman, though, spears him right back down, and the count starts all over again. Again, Brock Lesnar makes it back to his feet at the count of 9. Roman grabs the briefcase. He starts just battering Lesnar with it. He's hammering him, hammering away on this guy with the Money in the Bank briefcase. He tells the referee to count. He says, count his ass down. And again, Brock Lesnar makes it back to his feet. Roman grabs the WWE title. He clobbers Brock right in the head with it. Puts him down. Tells the referee to count. Referee starts counting. He gets to 9. Brock Lesnar staggers to his feet at 9 3/4. And Michael Cole is losing his shit on commentary. How is this man doing it? This man is not human. How does he keep getting up? So Roman takes the Universal title. He's got 2 belts, right? The first one didn't work. We'll use the other one. He takes the Universal belt, hits Brock in the head with it, puts him down again. And this was basically Brock Lesnar doing his best Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees impersonation. He was like the horror movie villain. No matter what you do to him, you can't kill him. You put him down, he just keeps popping right back up. It's like Michael Myers doing the zombie sit-up. What do I have to do to beat this guy? So after he hits him with the Universal title, Reigns and the Usos, they start taking parts of the announce table, which is shattered now. They start taking parts of the announce table, chairs, those big bulky announce chairs, the ring steps. They're piling all of this shit on top of Brock so that he can't move. He can't breathe. He can't move. The referee counts him down. Very similar to how Mankind won the championship from The Rock in that halftime heat match many years ago, where he basically trapped The Rock under this pallet and The Rock couldn't move and he lost. That also was Last Man Standing. No, actually, it wasn't Last Man Standing. I'm sorry. I thought it was Last Man Standing. That was not Last Man Standing. But he pinned The Rock under that pallet because Rock couldn't move. Brock could move. Referee counts to 10. And with the help of the Usos, Roman Reigns, once again, retains the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. They keep the title in the Bloodline. There is no cash-in by Austin Theory. Bloodline's reign continues. And I can honestly say that is one of the wildest matches in SummerSlam history that I can remember. And it didn't start out that way. It started out kind of like ho-hum. But by the time this thing was over, and again, I'll put this back on the screen. That right there tells you everything you need to know about this main event. The chaos of what this main event turned into. And as I said at the beginning of the stream, I think that this was easily the best match that Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns have had since their very first match at WrestleMania 31. Every match that they have had since then, I don't remember much about that first Saudi Arabia match in the cage. I don't remember it being all that great. Pretty much every match that these two have had since that first WrestleMania match has really not been very good at all. And tonight they changed that. These guys, if this was their last hurrah together, as WWE claims, then you know what? This right here, that's how you go out. That right there is how you end a feud. That right there is how you put this thing to bed once and for all. That was a wild fucking main event. That was a great main event. Brock Lesnar certainly did not look weak in defeat. Look at what it took to put this guy down. How could anybody be credible against this guy ever again? Brock should never wrestle again in this company after this. How could he ever have a program or a feud with anybody else on the roster and have that other person be taken seriously after everything that he went through in this match and everything it took to finally put him down? You can't put anybody else in the ring with him. Like, that's it. Look at what it took to beat this man. But now it's going to be Roman Reigns going to Clash at the Castle. Drew McIntyre is going to be challenging for the championship. And the question is that where you pull the trigger and take those titles off of Roman Reigns? It feels like it's Drew's moment, right? They're going to be at Principality Stadium in Cardiff, 60,000 people. Drew's going to have a lot of fans over there. He's going to clearly be the fan favorite going into this match. We'll see if Tyson Fury ends up having some kind of involvement, but do you finally take these titles off of Roman Reigns? Or do you hold off? Do you wait for Cody Rhodes to come back? Can you stomach another 9 months of Roman Reigns as the champion? A long time between now and WrestleMania. How many more people does he beat and mow down before he's gone through everybody on this roster? He has mowed down everybody on this roster, with the exception of Drew McIntyre. And he actually did beat Drew at Survivor Series a few years ago, but that was so long ago. I mean, how many more people does he steamroll over? Not going to have anybody left. But that is going to be the main event next month. I thought this was the most enjoyable SummerSlam show in many years. I thought the middle was really nothing special at all. But I did have fun watching this show, and I am very hopeful now that under Triple H, we will begin to see changes. We are already seeing changes in the Raw Women's division, and that is a very good thing. Here is the SummerSlam poll, and wow, you guys are basically in full agreement with what I was just talking about. 82% have given this show a resounding thumbs up. Only 13% of you have said thumbs in the middle, and 5% thumbs down. This is going to be the best WWE poll. Maybe since WrestleMania. I think WrestleMania was pretty well received. But at Solomonster, that is the place to go. Everybody knows that. You want to go vote? That is where you can go. And I do want to actually, you know what? Before we even get into your super chats here, and I know you guys have a lot to say about this show tonight. And again, get them on in because we'll run through all this and then we'll get the hell out of here. But I do want to mention, because this weekend is not over yet. We have another stream tomorrow night. I'm going to be live after Ric Flair's last match. Oh, I can't say it with a straight face. Ric Flair's supposedly last match is tomorrow night. It's going to be him and Jay Lethal on opposite sides of the ring. Ric Flair and Andrade taking on Lethal and Double J, Jeff Jarrett, who's had quite the busy weekend. He called it right down the middle at SummerSlam tonight. Tomorrow night, he's going to try to beat the hell out of a 73-year-old man with a pacemaker. But the rest of the card is looking pretty damn good. Very strong undercard. So when this event is over, I'll be live on YouTube talking about it. And you can come on back, join me. And no matter what happens on this pay-per-view, I'm sure that there will be plenty to talk about tomorrow night. Oh my goodness. Look at this. And you guys have come out in full force. Let's take it back. We got some beach music. All right, summertime, SummerSlam, summer theme. Go with the beach theme. Thank you, by the way. We've had a lot of people tuned in tonight. So if you are new here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button. We got plenty more content coming to this channel, and I want to make sure you are always kept aware of it. Riga just popped up on my screen. Shinakuma, thank you for the 5. Says, giving my donation early. I'm at work and will not make tonight's stream. Going to watch the replay and will listen to the stream in the morning. Well, it will be there for you whenever you are ready. Lakers Pats, Edge's heel turn was pointless and the Jobber Day. Yeah, Judgment Day is not doing too well. Hyru with the 10 spot. Good to see Bayley back. I popped when Dakota's music hit. I'm a big Dakota Kai fan. My only complaint is I would have had them go after Liv and had Bianca's next challenger be Rhea Ripley. That's the feud that I'm still hoping for, is Bianca and Rhea, but everything's been blown up now, right? That's what makes it exciting. Now we have Dakota Kai, we've got Io Shirai or Io Sky, Bayley is back, so we don't know who's going to be feuding with who. Near, and you see Cross returning as a member of Judgment Day by the end of 2022. I don't know that Judgment Day will even be a thing at the end of 2022. So I don't know that that's even going to be a possibility. Fire Panda 007. No Jake either. Good lord, my predictions were wrong. Hey, Rear and Colin Wing, thank you for the sub. Matt View 72. The chorus that played with McAfee was Music City Chorus. My friend Jimmy is with them, but missed SummerSlam because of a wedding. Well, that was awful timing on his part. Hey, Taylor Ed, thank you for the sub. Jay William, that's not a bad suggestion. He says they should merge Judgment Day and Maximum Male Models. Just merge them into one. Can you imagine, like, well, actually, Rhea Ripley throwing water on herself, and Finn Balor in the background with Damian Priest, and she's up front, and yeah, that could work. That could work. We got Fire Panda, hoping to go 3-0 tonight and keep my crown. Fire Panda, I always appreciate seeing you in the chat. Says, well, I was wrong about Theory cashing in, but he could always do it on Monday if Roman shows up to work. I just don't see the need to blow the Money in the Bank thing so soon. Just hold on to it. It's a great gimmick to hold on and have in your back pocket. Why rush into it? There's no need to blow it. You already used the Liv Morgan one. I say hold on to it for a while. Food Hive. Can't believe I'm on a WWE stream for the SummerSlam. Hey, John, thank you for the sub. John Atutolu. But he says, that was the craziest main event I ever saw. This is my first WWE pay-per-view in 4.5 years. And I will bet you anything that you're going to find a lot more people now that we have a new vision for this company. You're going to find more people willing to give them a look that haven't tuned into WWE in many years. Because they did not like the product under Vince McMahon. They're at least willing to give it a shot now under someone else and see if it gets any better. It might not. It might not get better enough for them to stick around, but I think you're going to find a lot more people who are going to be saying exactly the same thing. Oh, it's the first pay-per-view or first show I've tuned into in years. Because so many people have just stopped watching the product. It's incredible. I can't even begin to tell you the number of tweets and emails over the years that I've gotten from people who say, I only watch your content. I only listen to your show. I don't watch WWE anymore. I can't stand it. The shows are too long, or they're too boring, or whatever it is that they don't like about it. And I think some of those people are probably going to be willing to give it a second look. Angry Magma cracking back on my last beer for this one. Well, I would imagine he's probably all beered out by now. It was 2 hours ago. I don't think he's still drinking. What do you think? He's probably passed out by now. Winter's Paw. Does USA have dirty pictures of Triple H or something? They'd be getting all the bad women while SmackDown is in shambles. Fun show with a fun and wild main event. Quintus Brown with the 10 spot. Thank you, Quintus. Great show. That was the best Reigns-Brock match ever. It looks took Triple H to book it that great. Also, I love the new Unleashed Michael Cole. Triple H era is off to a great start. And he says that I am actually looking forward to Raw. Yeah, this will be the first real Monday Night Raw that Vince McMahon does not have his fingerprints on it, and so we'll see what Triple H, what direction he decides to take things in. T-Mac with 10. Think this is the best WWE pay-per-view all year, not including WrestleMania 38 Night 1. Don't know how much of this was Vince or Triple H, but this pay-per-view seemed like a step in the right direction. Well, I can tell you that what we saw in that opener was not Vince McMahon. That was all Triple H. Fire Panda, so the rumor is that Dunn might be future endeavored soon. If that happens, I swear right now to everybody in the chat and you, Mr. Monster, I will drop a $100 super chat. I don't think that he's going anywhere just yet, but I do think that in time he will be phased out, or he'll just see the writing on the wall and he'll leave on his own and he'll, burrow his way out of it. Temjin Zephyr with the $9.99. Brock bought a forklift. He brought a forklift to win a last man standing match against Big Show. Funny, he brought a tractor with a lift and still took a loss. But that main event was hilariously fun. That Joe guy, do you think that when the trio of women came out, that Bayley should have been last? She is the biggest star of the three. Probably the leader of this group. It seems like it was done backwards. No, I think it was more probably a case they wanted her to come out first, establish that, okay, she's back, but she's not here alone, right? She's got backup. She has friends that she wants to introduce us to. I wouldn't read too much into it. I didn't think it was a big deal. I'm not picking nits when it comes to that segment because I enjoyed the whole thing. Pablo Soto. What a creatively brutal main event. Nino. Pat McAfee against Baron Corbin. Over-delivered. We have No Pepper just subscribed to the channel. Look at Cody. He's all pumped. He's like, let's go. Get on in here. Where are we, by the way, on the likes? Give me a like count in the chat. Kyle Davis, Michael Cole actually speaking like a human being was extremely noticeable and made a huge difference. Malamar54. Welcome to the channel, Malamar. I used to eat Malamars. I can't have them anymore, but they are very good. Fire Panda 007. Rank every Brock against Roman match from worst to best. I think the worst one I've probably seen is WrestleMania 34. That was fucking terrible, and I was there for that one. But as far as I don't know. In the middle, the middle order doesn't even matter. The question is, would I rank this above the WrestleMania 31 match? Because you got that cash in, it turned into a triple threat. It's hard. I think I still have that as my number one. I just think the way that played out was so perfect. And this is so fresh in my mind. I gotta think on this as far as which one I like more. Fire Panda, though, thank you for that super chat. Bones Jones, good show, by the way. Got a copy of your mom's book. That is very kind of you. I appreciate that. Today was the 3-year anniversary that I was able to get my mother's children's book published posthumously. It was a year after she passed away, but I know that she would have loved it if she could see it in print and hold it in her hand. That one of my proudest things, I was able to make sure that book got published. And a lot of you guys have bought the book and shared it with your son, daughter, nephew, niece, friends. So it's up on Amazon. The Adventure of Hardy the Horse. It's up on Amazon. Boots. You ain't welcome here, and then Brock gets buried. I thought someone was going to be pinned down by the tractor. That ending was wild. Justin Jack, I'm not a sports entertainment fan, but I am a Solomonster fan, so here's some money. Love your content. Thank you, Justin Jack. Just gets right to the point. I love it. I love the honesty. Lamar Smith, Tony Khan better find somewhere else to scout talent besides WWE's release pool. Just kidding. Do you think that they wait for WrestleMania now for Bianca and Rhea, seeing the way that the Bianca match ended? No, I mean, I don't think they wait that long. I don't think they wait that long. Bobby's World 2110. The women's division got a major boost tonight, and I'm here for it. Keep doing what you're doing, brother. Hit that like button. I think we're over 1,100 already. Well, we could do 12, right? If we did 11, we could do 12. Angry Magma, Logan Paul had the match of the night. I don't know, man. That main event was pretty fucking wild. Rizzo, I was impressed that they got Logan Paul cheered. At least that's how it sounded on Peacock. Obviously, Drew takes at least one of the belts from Roman at the Clash. Well, look, I think it's pretty obvious the belts are going to be split before Survivor Series because they're going to do the whole Raw versus SmackDown thing. And so if the belts are going to be split, the way to go might be get that Universal belt on Drew. You can keep the WWE title on Roman. And Cody can still take, because that's the one that matters to Cody. It's the WWE, right? It's the one that his father had taken away from him all those years ago. That's the story. Cody doesn't have to win the Universal title. All he needs is the WWE title. So if they split them, Drew gets the blue belt, Roman could hold on to the other one, and you could still do Cody and Roman. If they can't get The Rock in for WrestleMania, and I don't think Rock should be wrestling for the championship anyway, you could get to Roman and Cody that way at WrestleMania next year. Isaiah says Dakota Kai and Io Shirai. Thank you, Triple H. Zachary Hale, Antares. Looking forward to anything specific in this new Triple H era. You know what? If Triple H really has power beyond just creative in this company, if he can get that Vladimir Superfan documentary released that they've been holding hostage, then he'll have my full support. If he could find a way to get that thing released, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, no, there's a lot of things I'd like to see changed. I can't say that there's any one thing. There's a lot of little things I think that need to be changed. I mentioned more tag teams, right? We're seeing him now trying to overhaul the women's division on Raw. Fire Panda says, imagine WrestleMania without a stage. I mean, WrestleMania back in 1992 didn't have a stage. They had a little entranceway with the little laser logo, the WWF logo. Fit more people in there, right? You fit more people in there. Why not? Now, WrestleMania needs a fancy stage. SummerSlam doesn't. I didn't mind the stage tonight. Get more people in there. It looks different than the typical WWE, setup that we always see. So, I mean, I didn't have an issue with the way it looked tonight. But I tell you what, one thing that Triple H could do is pump a little more creativity back into these sets for the different pay-per-views. Right? Even the B shows back in the day, Backlash and stuff, with the sites that would go back and forth. Like, there was more creativity put into those sets, and I feel like now, they have their one big set they paid all this money for. It's, LED, and they can make it look whichever way they want, but it's boring. It's the same old shit. I'd like to see a little more creativity put into some of these sets. P. Alberto Sanchez, Dakota Sky is back. I like that. Very nice, very clever. Dakota Sky. That's like Thunderstorm with Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm. King Bling Blah. Who else that was cut do you see Triple H getting back? I think Triple H would bring William Regal back in a heartbeat had he not signed with AEW. I think had William Regal not gone to AEW, and I'm glad he did. I love the whole Blackpool Combat Club and him being with those guys. But I would think that if he wasn't signed to AEW, Triple H would be bringing him in as like his right-hand man right now. Like what Patterson was to Vince, I think Regal would have been that to Triple H. And he still could be. I don't know how long his deal is for. Maybe eventually he will end up back working for Triple H, but I really do. I think Regal would have ended up in that spot. I'm trying to think of, who was cut, who hasn't already been picked up by somewhere else. I mean, Johnny Gargano didn't get cut. I mean, his contract expired. I think him going back to WWE now is the right move for him to make. So I do think he'll end up back there. I think that, I don't know. They got rid of so many people. You know, somebody mentioned Timothy Thatcher. I think he's over in Japan, I think, isn't he? Cross. Yeah, I mean, Killer Cross never got a fair shake. And he was also a Triple H guy, so Triple H might want to, you know, bring him back into the fold. Very possible. I'm sure this time if he came back, he wouldn't get that ridiculous, stupid helmet. First timer, thank you for the super chat. Moise. We got Moise A with the 1999. I was so burned out by bad WWE booking, but I literally started watching Raw and Smackdown again once Vince retired. Thank you for being you, Solomonster. Question for you. Do you think WWE will use Pat on big pay-per-views only? Pat in the ring, you mean? McAfee in the ring? Yes. I think you save him for big shows. You know, Survivor Series would be a big show. If it's Raw versus SmackDown, I think it's going to be him and Corey Graves at Survivor Series. Hulkling93 with the $10 super chat. We've got opener and angle was the best thing in my opinion. The main event was wild, but so is a Michael Bay sequel. Just apathetic to their matches. Actually walked out of my house at one point, but points for the ring raise spot. Andre Israel, Io against Asuka. Don't wait. Book it tonight. Yeah, we could very well. They're on. Well, Asuka is on Raw. Yeah, so Asuka and Io Shirai are going to be on the same show. How about that? The possibilities are endless. Joseph Brooks, what was NXT's greatest year creatively? It might have been 2015 or 2016. Kind of waver on that. Hulkling93, I know it wasn't any disrespect, but Io is just one of the best wrestlers regardless of gender, period. Fair point. Big Cat J, you think SummerSlam was too pro-face with the wins? Pro-face? Roman Reigns and the Usos won. I don't know how you could say it was too pro-face. So no, I didn't think it was too pro-face. Simi Valley, if Brock ends up staying, what feuds do you see for him in his future? I have no idea. I mean, based on what they did in that main event, again, who could possibly be competitive against them? And they haven't gotten any heels ready to really feud with him. So I can't think of, you know, they could always try for a rematch with Lashley, I guess. I mean, that's sort of an unresolved thing that was never, but that would be babyface and babyface, you know, unless Brock goes heel again. I honestly don't know. I don't know if Brock is going to be back or if he's going to go away. Oven Hart, Kevin Dunn and Vince Russo against the Hart Foundation. Book it. Riley Parvin, the stadium also absolutely loved McAfee, chanted bum-ass Corbin the whole time, sang his song, and were super hyped for the finish. Actually, you know what I do? There is one person that I would like to see Brock against, but I just worry it wouldn't end well for him. And they've done such a good job of so far with Walter on SmackDown. But Walter and Brock, that would be a fucking match I'd like to see. I don't know that it would end well for Walter, though. But that probably would be the one match that I would really kind of sit up in my seat and go, okay, this is a Brock Lesnar match that I've never seen before that I would love to see. Riley says the crowd did, in fact, go wild for Edge's return. Okay, well, again, it didn't really come across that way at first on TV, but I thought maybe in the building it might be different. Rico the Official with the $4.99. Do you think WWE needs to stop with this do every event in stadiums if they have to pretend the stadium is full, but actually one side is blocked up? Yeah, I don't think every show should be in a stadium anyway. So otherwise, they kind of lose that special feeling if you start doing Manuel Macias, do you think we'll have multiple top stars like Roman with Triple H running creative, or will it remain the same in the company with just one top star? I think it's very smart to make sure you have more than one person that you can rely on. Roman is no longer a full-time performer, so you need to make sure you have at least one other person who can step into that spot. So hopefully the days of just having the one guy that you build around are over, because I always thought that was just very dumb. And it was dumb luck back in the Attitude Era that they had Austin and Rock get hot at exactly the same time. That was pure luck, is what that was. Yeah, it's rare that you have two stars of that caliber on that level at the same time in your company. But they have to do a better job, I think, of just building more people up at that level. Rizzo with the $20. Thank you, Rizzo. Appreciate that. Pat McAfee and Amanda Nunez both drank a beer from the crowd, and in this day and age, I hope to God the people who handed them the beers were planted fans. Also, it seemed like a couple of wrestlers had issues with the ropes. Yes, I made that comment earlier. The ropes seemed a little too loose, and that may have had to do with the stunt that we saw at the end of the show. Hey, DC, thanks for the sub. Cheers to DC. Faisal, pretty amusing that the fourth Captain America movie will be subtitled New World Order, because if anyone would have a problem with a black Captain America, it would be Hulk Hogan. Thank you, Faisal. T-Mac, New Day is the best tag team in the modern era, in my opinion. Riley, do you think it's time to combine the tag team division? The belts are already halfway unified, and like you said, there are only 3 teams between both shows. I have been calling for a unification now for a few years. So, the answer is yes. They have barely any division. There should be no separation between them. They should have one tag team division, but as long as there's a brand split, you're going to have teams on both shows. So, the best thing to do is to keep those belts unified. The biggest issue is that they had 2 sets of tag team belts and 2 divisions that were absolute garbage and had no depth whatsoever. Why do you need 2 sets of belts? They solved that problem for the time being by unifying them. My fear is that they will de-unify them at some point. You can de-unify them if the tag team divisions are built back up. They haven't done that. Devin from NJ 2000. What does Solomonster's mean look like? My mean look? I don't know. What does my mean look like? I don't know. It's too late to be mean. Drew with the $4.99. Pat McAfee was one of the most over acts. WWE turned a former Indianapolis Colt into the equivalent of a hometown hero in a division rival city. That is not easy to do. That is not an easy thing to do. Thunder Knight with the $5 super chat. What's going on, Thunder Knight? Says, I would go with Bret Hart at Mr. SummerSlam because, in my opinion, his matches with Bulldog and Owen are the 2 best matches in SummerSlam history. Well said. Riley Parvin, I don't know if it was on the air, but after the match, Brock crawled or climbed up from the bottom to the top of the ring and had to hold onto the ropes to pose with his cowboy hat. I hope there's a leaked video of this. Fire Panda 007. I was kind of underwhelmed with SummerSlam, but then again, it was a show with the Vince touch to it. Hopefully, I'm not too underwhelmed for the next pay-per-view. Cameron Johnson has been a channel member for 17 months. You believe that? Andrew Heller has been a Sound Off legend for 14 months. If you are new here, look at the Warrior. Look at the Warrior draping that rope. If you're not a channel member, I don't know why not. Hit that join button down below. Got bonus content in the archives just waiting for you. Griga, thank you for the $2. Fire Panda, by Vince Touch, I mean the card and the rivalries going into SummerSlam were done by VKM. I, too, am Team Double... Team Doofus... I thought it said double. Doofus son-in-law. Yes, the Doofus son-in-law. We are all rooting for the Doofus son-in-law. The Carloses went to high school with Dakota Kai in New Zealand. Can't believe she finally made it. Good on you, lass. That's very cool. Fire Panda 007, do you know what this show needed? Alex effin' right. I think he's coaching, right? Is he a coach or a trainer or something over in Europe? Is Alex right? Dorenzo, good day, Solomonster. Hope you are well. I recently watched Io Shirai against Rhea Ripley for the NXT Championship. That match is an underrated gem. Hopefully we get more of those two in the future. I agree. Psychopathic Savior, thank you. He says he tagged me in that Brock video on Twitter, so I am sure that my replies are out of control, but I will try to dig it out of there when I can. Ian Noel Camelotes, this was a pretty good pay-per-view. Looking forward to WWE again. What is the next storyline that you are looking forward to? Well, it hasn't happened yet. I guess we'll have to wait and see what Triple H comes up with, because I wasn't really enamored with any of the existing ones. So I'm waiting for him to come up with a brand new one that I haven't even thought about yet. It's too late in the night for me to start booking WWE for the next few months. Fire Panda says, I stand Davey Boy Smith, Chinlocks. And we've got Tripod with the 5. Overall good show. The Maximum Male Model segment was one of those so bad it was good moments. King Bling Blah, how do you explain Roman and Drew being for one title? Well, I mean, that's the problem. It's not easy to come up with an explanation of why, right? He's been defending a unified championship now for months. Why all of a sudden would it be for one title? I mean, this is WWE. Since when do they need an explanation for anything? They could just make the decision that they want 2 titles again. They could just de-unify the championships. King Bling Blah, how do you... I read that one. First timer. We can all agree the walkaway was way too... the walkway was way too long. It was definitely long. It was taking people a very long time to get down to the ring. Fire Panda, I got a great idea. Del Rio wins the 2023 Royal Rumble and wins the title at WrestleMania. That's a terrible idea. Darth Panic, I don't see The Rock coming back. He has endless movies to film, plus he has the XFL. It should be Cody to take the belts from Roman at the next WrestleMania. That's the story that I would do. It would be Cody Rhodes winning the Royal Rumble if he can make it back in time. You know, keep in mind the fact that he had as severe of a tear as you could possibly have. I mean, they said that he almost hemorrhaged on the operating table. So I don't know that it's a foregone conclusion that he'll be back in time for the Rumble, but hopefully he is. He wins the Rumble. He goes to Mania. It's the perfect story. To go back to one of the super chats I just got. What's the story I want? You know what? That's the story I want. The Cody story is just the most naturally obvious story. And he was so over before he got, injured. He was over with the audience. I didn't know how they would react to him, if they would boo him the way they booed him in AEW. But he was over, and people, were into him, and he told that story about his father. It's such a perfect story that I think if anybody puts Roman down, it should be him. Joshua Bonfield. Should AEW be worried about WWE's new management? I think that AEW should right now be focused and worried about themselves and trying to get their numbers back up heading into the fall, where the television networks are going to be looking at their TV ratings, because this is the period that probably is how AEW is going to be evaluated heading into next year's negotiations on a new deal. That's why I think MJF is being saved for the fall. After Punk comes back, and when the fall television ratings are in full swing, I think that's when you're going to see MJF back on TV. I I think that they could expect that AEW will not be the destination for people that it has been. So before it was almost like, oh, we can't go to WWE, right? Or we can't go back to WWE. Now you're going to start to see some people who I think are definitely more open to going there and going back there. And when their contracts are up, are going to want to go back to work under Triple H. That's something that Tony Khan, I think, is going to have to contend with. I mean, he can go on the radio and say, oh, I'm amused by all this because Malachi Black has a 5-year contract and Adam Cole has a 5-year contract. Okay, well, does Darby Allin have a 5-year contract, or is he on year 3 of a 5-year contract? What about some of the other people you have under lock and key right now? How long do they have? Not everybody on that roster has 5 years left on their deal. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a problem that he runs into as time goes on. Jameel the King, do you think Sasha and Naomi will come back soon? I think WWE wants them. I think that Triple H is going to try to smooth things over, but I don't think it's going to happen soon. Look at Tony. Look at Tony. Still sitting there, he's still snorting that shit. Fire Panda, what's the dumbest spot that you've ever seen? I mean, pretty much watch any GCW show. I just saw one a few weeks ago from a GCW show where these guys were basically using pieces of light tube to like rip the flesh off their arms. I mean, some of the dumbest fucking shit that I've ever seen in my life are the people who just self-mutilate themselves. It's not even in the context of like a spot. They're just like, I mean, it'd be like just standing there and just basically slit your throat. I mean, what's what's the talent in that? That's not wrestling. I don't know what that is. That's garbage is what that is. That's not wrestling. Fire Panda says, who would win, Disco Inferno or Del Rio? There are no winners in a match like that. There are no winners. I think I have gotten through all of your messages. I believe I have. We are very close to 1,200 likes. I want to thank everybody who has given a thumbs up to the stream. We're only about 15 away from 1,200, so that's very, very kind of you. And I appreciate all of the support. We had a lot of people here tonight for what overall I thought was a pretty damn strong pay-per-view. And probably one of the more fun SummerSlams that I have seen in many years, with a very wild main event. Now, the new era truly begins on Monday with Monday Night Raw, the kickoff of what I would say more so than the Madison Square Garden show this week, which was probably largely already booked by Vince McMahon. This now that we're heading into is truly the Triple H era. And this is where we are going to begin to see the kind of changes that he plans on making. And again, it will take time. The product is not going to look radically different overnight, but I am encouraged by some of the changes that we saw here on the show tonight. There is reason to be optimistic, and I would not have said that. For many years, I would not have said that, but it truly feels like we are in the middle of a changing of the guard here. And it's not just lip service, but it's the real thing. It's the real deal. Bob the Builder, what happens to Sasha and Naomi now? I think WWE is going to try to get them back. But there's a brand new IWGP Women's Championship being created in November that I think would fit very well around Sasha Banks' waist. I'm just saying. I think that she would look very good with that championship around her waist. Bearwolf, congrats. Dr. Scorpio, Liv should have won clean, but at least Ronda is the heel. Liv was not going to win clean. Honestly, the idea of Liv Morgan beating Ronda Rousey clean is ridiculous. So all the Liv Morgan fans should be very happy that she won at all. But she was never going to beat Ronda Rousey clean. That just was not going to happen. And Fire Panda says, who walks into WrestleMania as the WWE and Universal Champion, and who walks out as champion? I said Roman can walk in as champion, Cody can leave as champion. Skywalker. Should WWE replica belts be banned from live events? I was taken away from the main event with all of the WWE belts in the audience. Really? Because I didn't notice them at all. It didn't bother me at all. Why do the belts bother you? I've never heard anybody say that the belts being shown in the crowd bother them. Is it that it's blocking your view, or you just don't like seeing championship belts being waved in the crowd? I didn't honestly notice it at all. It didn't bother me at all. Fire Panda, I once again agree with my good doctor. All right, let's, because it's supremely late here, let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
Down goes Disco, one of my favorite super chats. Say, Fire Panda, again, thank you for that one. If you are new here, we do a little segment here called Be the Booker, where I randomly book one men's match, a women's match, and a tag team match. Totally at random here, using this spiffy generator that I've created. And yes, I did make this myself. And let's see what we land on here. Let's see what kind of matches we can book here. Be the Booker. We begin with the Honky Tonk Man. He'll say that he's the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. You picture the Honky Tonk Man against Walter? Got the Honky Tonk Man going one-on-one here with the Ultimate Warrior. I gotta give the bell to that. I mean, we got a SummerSlam 88 rematch here. That's how Warrior won his first championship. That's old school. Solomonster booking old school here. On the ladies' side, we have the lovely AJ Lee popping up here in our generator. We've had AJ pop up a few times. See, AJ this time going to be stepping into the ring with Betty White. There's no way that AJ Lee could compete with Betty White. See, Betty White against almost anybody. It's hard to give her the buzzer. But I'm not sold on that match there. And over on the tag team side, let's see what we end up with here on the tag team side. We have the Butcher and the Blade. The Butcher and the Blade from AEW. Butcher's a lot slimmer now than he is in that photo, by the way. He's lost a lot of weight. Butcher and the Blade going to get in the ring with the Mexicools. What a terrible night. What a terrible night for Be the Booker. That was awful. Those were some awful, awful matches. John Moxley, what did you think of that Be the Booker tonight?
Fuck Kevin Dunn.
He's still hung up on Kevin Dunn. Every time I talk to this guy, it's all he says.
Fuck Kevin Dunn.
Can't have a conversation with this guy. Don Juan, thank you for the $1.99. He was very excited for Be the Booker. Fire Panda, thank you for the double super chat. Says, I love Be the Booker, and why is Betty White by herself? Yeah, I can't, I don't know, Betty White, that other guy in the super chat with her, I can't see him. I don't know who that is. Skywalker says, on the replica belt, he says, because my girlfriend asked, why should Brock Lesnar fight for a belt when you can buy one like everybody else? Your girlfriend is a very sensible person. Well, the difference, of course, is that the belts on TV are the real deal, right? Those are the thicker plates. They weigh more, real leather, not this faux leather that you have with the replica belts. I agree, though. I mean, everybody has them. It kind of takes away from, the actual championships on TV. When I was younger, we had the foam belts. It didn't even look like the belts on TV. I still have it, by the way, somewhere. I have it somewhere. The WWF World Title. It was like an oval with a globe in the middle. It didn't look anything like the Winged Eagle. There was no eagle on it. But that was the title that they sold. Hyru, what's the quick backstory on your issues with Disco? I listened to K100. I have no issues. I really don't give a shit what they talk about. I focus on my own shit. It's all other people just manufacturing bullshit. I could care less about anybody else. I don't waste a second of my time thinking about it. I do my own thing, and I don't waste my time on people who don't deserve my time. Don Juan, my sister wants to go on a date with you. I don't know how to respond to that. Well, tell her I'm flattered. Tell her I'm flattered. And I am also very tired. I have to wake up in a few hours and record a full podcast, episode 767 of The Sound Off. We have much to discuss. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but we have 2 podcasts coming up later today. The main audio show, The Flagship, which you can listen to on all major audio platforms, including Spreaker, support on Spreaker. And tonight, of course, is the Ric Flair pay-per-view. The final match. Going to be live on YouTube as soon as that pay-per-view is off the air. And I hope that you are going to come back. Hey, Daisy. Daisy just subscribed to the channel at 2:30 in the morning. Thank you, Daisy. I hope Daisy is going to join us for Ric Flair's final match. So that'll be tomorrow night. And I think that's about it. I think I covered all of the key stuff. This was a big stream tonight. Big stream tonight. So thank you for choosing me for your SummerSlam coverage. I hope you enjoyed this review as much as I enjoyed presenting it to you. And I will be right back here in just a few hours. I know everybody's laughing in the chat. Final match. Ric Flair's final match. Fire Panda. Dropping another super chat. I love you, Mr. Monster. Here is more money. LOL. Thank you, Fire Panda. And Daryl Harrison. Run it back this time. Hell in a Cell. Talking about Roman and Brock? No. No, we don't need Roman and Brock Hell in a Cell. Kev, thanks for the sub. Don Juan says, don't leave us. What is Spreaker? It's only one of the biggest podcast hosting platforms in the fucking world. What is Spreaker? What kind of question is that? What kind of question is that? And it'll be even bigger now that we're on there. It's a free app. Go download it. I promise you. Works like a charm. You can get a whole bunch of different podcasts on there, including the Sound Off. That is what Spreaker is. Don Juan, again, thank you. Fire Panda, thank you. I shall go 3-0. Yeah, Fire Panda, I think that you're going to get the last word here, as I know you always like to have. So I'm out of here. Be well, stay safe, have yourselves a good night, and always remember, I'm the Solomonster, damn it. That's right. Damn right. I'll see you tomorrow night. Luis, thank you for the $2, man. I didn't want to leave you hanging. Thank you, Luis. Oh, Fire Panda. Dropping another super chat. Fire Panda and Luis, thank you very much. I appreciate it. No man left behind, no woman left behind. Not here on this stream. All right, have a good night.